Chapter 49 Summer Sun Resort. Chapter 49 Summer Sun Resort. I'm drop-dead handsome. The next morning Wang Xian stood in front of the mirror, looking refreshed after a bath. Looking at himself in the mirror he was pleased. While fiddling with his hairstyle his phone suddenly rang. Wang Xian spun around and picked up his phone quickly. When he saw Guan Shuqing's number, a smile surfaced on his face. "Hello, pretty Guan." Wang Xian squinted his eyes and said, "Have you woken up?" "Yes, where are we going? Do you need me to pick you up?" Wang Xian said with a smile. "No, I'll be going with the annoying guy. Oh, I forgot to tell you yesterday that you're acting as my boyfriend today. Do you have any issues with that?" "No, I'm sure." Wang Xian chuckled. He had a sleepless night as he was thinking of what Guan Shuqing meant by what she said yesterday. He was rather into Guan Shuqing. But he was neither someone who could chat with girls easily nor the proactive type. Otherwise, Chi Chu, whom he had been working together with, would have become his girlfriend. Wang Xian did not put much thought into this, but that did not mean that he did not have the desire. Now he was fired up after Guan Shuqing tempted him. "I'll send you the address. See you then." Guan Shuqing hung up after talking to him. Soon after, an address was sent to his WeChat. Guan Shuqing is back to herself today. That's odd. Women are always unpredictable. Wang Xian shook his head. He knew Guan Shuqing must have encountered some problems. Otherwise, she would not have said such a thing yesterday. However, he still remembered that she promised to marry him if he earned $50 million. That was not a difficult task for the present Wang Xian. Her? Summer Sun Resort? Isn't that the property of Xue Jing and his family? Upon seeing the address sent by Guan Shuqing, Wang Xian was taken aback by surprise. What a coincidence. Wang Xian laughed as he headed outside. He rode to the old street and had his breakfast before he rode off to the Summer Sun Resort. When he arrived at the Summer Sun Resort, it was only about 9 a.m. He came to the car park at the entrance and parked his motorcycle there. Should I tell Xue Jing? Wang Xian hesitated. After some considerations, he decided to let it go to avoid unnecessary troubles. He put the keys back in his pocket and headed to the entrance. "Kite, don't run, stop." At this time Wang Xian heard a shout and a cheerful cry from a kid behind him. "I want to play." A kidderish voice was heard, and Wang Xian felt someone knocking into him and hugging his leg from behind. "Watch out, watch out." Wang Xian turned around and saw a little boy hugging his thigh nervously. "I'm sorry that I knocked into you. I almost fell too." As Wang Xian turned around, the little boy lifted his head and looked at him shyly. "It's all right." Wang Xian looked at the cute and well-mannered boy. He could not help but to rub his head. "Little Kite, why are you running so fast? Wait for your dad and grandpa." A middle-aged man and an elder walked out from a camper van. Along with them were two young men who looked like bodyguards in suits. "Grandpa, Dad, let's hurry up and play." The little boy released Wang Xian's leg and continued to run inside. "You rascal." The middle-aged man sped up his pace and chased after him. He caught him in his arms. "Listen to me. Stop running. Don't run, don't run." Following behind, the old man came along with a cane. Wang Xian smiled when he saw the cute little boy staggering as he ran. Then Wang Xian headed for the resort. "Brother Qin, old Qin." At this time, another middle-aged man greeted them at the entrance. "Isn't he the father of Xue Jing, Xue Jiahua?" Wang Xian was a little surprised to see the middle-aged man. As Xue Jiahua was ushering the three people, he also saw Wang Xian. He was slightly taken aback before he walked over. "Benefactor Wang Xian." "Just call me Wang Xian." Wang Xian chuckled at the way he addressed him. "Sure, are you here for leisure?" asked Xue Jiahua with a smile on his face. "Yes, I came here to look around." Wang Xian nodded. "Why don't I get Xiao Jing to accompany you around?" answered Xue Jiahua hurriedly. "No, it's okay. I have to wait for my friend. Mr. Xue, you can ignore me." Wang Xian smiled as he declined. "Sure, then I shall not bother you anymore. Enjoy yourself and let us know if you need anything." Xue Jiahua nodded hurriedly. "All right." Wang Xian nodded and headed inside. Xue Jiahua watched as Wang Xian entered. With a slight hesitation, he fished out his phone and texted his son to entertain Wang Xian eventually. "Brother Xue." Just then, the middle-aged man not far away knit his eyebrows and called out for Xue Jiahua with the little boy in his arms. Just now, Xue Jiahua was supposed to greet them, but he cast them aside when he saw a young man. Such a way of doing things was impolite. However, they did not say anything. After all, they were here to ask for a favor. Old Qin, brother Qin, I'm really sorry. Shui Jiahua quickly responded to his calling by walking over quickly. In River Town, not many people were qualified for him to greet them personally. Old Qin was exceptional. Qin family was much more influential than Shui family. Hence, he did not dare to be a poor host. I'm really sorry. Just now, I met my benefactor. So I had to greet him personally. Shui Jiahua explained with apologies. Oh, a benefactor? The middle-aged man looked at the figure in front of him with curiosity. Never mind, I heard that old Shui not only regained his health but he also made some improvements. I'm here to check on him. Old Qin shook his cane, not minding at all. Sure, old Qin. My father is waiting inside. This way, please. Shui Jiahua looked at the little boy in the arms of the middle-aged man. Naturally, he knew the purpose of old Qin to come personally over here. Hence he quickly led the way. Summer Sun Resort is quite a posh place. An usher was leading in front of him as Wang Xian observed the surroundings with slight surprise. The entire resort was luxurious, surrounded by rockery, streams and a few trails. There were streams of crystal-clear water on both sides of the road with a myriad of fish swimming in it. Refined and posh-looking housing could be found ahead. Summer Sun Resort was situated near the sea. He could vaguely see the beach that was full of various activities like surfing. Not only that, there was a small restaurant on the sea with several tourists having their beverages. Surrounding the resorts were tall trees which made the place beautiful. There were some ponds with crystal-clear water too. The entire place was relaxing and the environment was elegant. It's a 5-star resort indeed. The environment is really awesome, Wang Xian exclaimed softly. Sir, if you are waiting for your friends, you can rest in the waiting area for the time being. The usher brought Wang Xian to a waiting area. Chapter 50 Treatment. Chapter 50 Treatment. Wang Xian sat at the waiting area within Summer Sun Resort and the usher brought him a cup of water. He gave Guan Shuqing a call and informed her about it. Moreover, she hadn't left her house. Wang Xian took out his phone and started playing to kill his boredom. Big brother Wang Xian. At this moment a voice sounded. Under the astonishment looks of the ushers in the surrounding, their young boss was running towards a young man. Huh. Wang Xian lifted his head and saw Shui Jing running towards him. He smiled and thought that Shui Jing was probably here under orders of his father. Big brother, why didn't you let me know that you are coming? I would have come to pick you up at the entrance. Shui Jing ran over passionately and said. A friend invited me here so I didn't disturb you. Wang Xian smiled and answered Shui Jing. As the other party was so zealous and warm to him, he naturally would treat him with sincerity. You aren't disturbing me. Not at all. I happen to be here anyway. Shui Jing laughed as he walked. Big brother, are you waiting for someone? Yeah, I'm waiting for someone. Wang Xian nodded his head. Big brother, why don't I bring you around for a tour since you are free now? Moreover, my grandfather has asked me to thank you again. Since my grandfather was treated by you, he has made a breakthrough in his cultivation level, Shui Jing said with gratitude. Really? In that case I'll have to congratulate old Shui. Wang Xian nodded his head with astonishment. Dragon energy was a top-grade type of energy. While treating old Shui's injuries, he also strengthened his heart. This was what allowed him to achieve the breakthrough. Big brother, let me bring you around for a tour. I'm guessing this is your first time here at our Summer Sun Resort. Let me introduce you to the various sites. Shui Jing asked. Alright, I'll be troubling you then. Wang Xian hesitated before nodding his head. Not at all. Shui Jing shook his head, stood up and led the way immediately. This resort is pretty good and the area is pretty big, Wang Xian remarked while following behind Shui Jing and listening to his explanation. This resort of ours is the largest in the entire province. Our Shui family invested $1 billion to build it in the past. Currently, our Shui family are relying on this resort and the 5-star hotel in the city center, Shui Jing explained. Wang Xian nodded his head. Looking at this, Shui family's assets should be at least $1 billion. There were many rich people in the country and many of these rich people were not known as they kept a low profile. Shui family could be considered as a family that kept a rather low profile. They didn't have a lot of properties but their properties weren't small. The scenery by the seaside was extremely beautiful after modification. The resort houses in the vicinity were all luxurious and exquisite. Large trees and a clean swimming pool. There were various kinds of entertainment. The restaurant by the sea was a great place to go to in the resort. When winter came, there would even be a hot spring. This place was great for tours for all seasons in a year. Big brother, would you like to go to the room at the side to take a break? My father and grandfather are both here today. If it's convenient for you, let's have lunch together today? The Shui family would like to make Wang Xian a friend. Shui Jing had also witnessed his strength and therefore tried to invite him and make him closer with them. Wang Xian also knew about the thoughts of Shui Jing and the Shui family. Even though the other party wanted him as a friend, he wasn't against the idea. To him, there were still a lot of benefits from getting to know an additional friend. Sure, my friend hasn't arrived yet. However, let's talk about lunch again later. If I have the time, I will definitely agree to it. Wang Xian nodded his head. Alright, big brother Wang Xian, this way please. Excitement flashed past Shui Jing's eyes as he replied quickly. Big brother Wang Xian, the two most luxurious rooms of our resorts are here. One of them is this and the other just beside. You can come over directly with your family membership card. Shui Jing pointed at the two luxurious rooms as he explained. Wang Xian looked over and nodded his head. After which, he walked into one of the luxurious rooms. Within the room, Shui Jiahua was sitting in the main hall with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was smoking and had a worried look on him. Brother Wang Xian. When Shui Jiahua saw Wang Xian walk in, he was filled with surprise. He stood up immediately and went over to welcome him. Mr. Shui, please take a seat. Wang Xian replied immediately. Come, come. Shui Jiahua smiled and nodded his head. He immediately took the teacup from the table, poured tea in it and passed it to Wang Xian personally. Brother Wang Xian, take a seat too. Sorry for disturbing Mr. Shui. Wang Xian nodded his head. He felt a little weird about his enthusiasm as he sat down. Not at all, not at all. Shui Jiahua waved his hand immediately. Authentic Longjing tea, have a try. I won't stand on ceremony then. Wang Xian nodded his head. The middle-aged man by the side looked at Wang Xian with surprise. This was the second time he saw Wang Xian. He met him for the first time at the entrance and Shui Jiahua left them aside just to greet this young man. Shui Jiahua even poured him tea personally and addressed him with deference. Even when facing his own father, he had never been so enthusiastic. He looked over inquisitively. Wah wah wah. At this moment, the crying sounds of a child propagated over. Soon after, a guy with his upper body naked ran out of the room. Little kite, don't run. Grandpa will bring you out to play. Let's go. Behind him, an old man with a walking stick walked out and called to the little guy. Dad's so itchy in pain. The little guy looked at his father and ran over with tears all over his face. It's all right, everything will be fine soon, my son. The middle-aged man carried the little guy, patted his back and was consoling him. Wang Xian looked at the small boy inquisitively. He noticed that his entire body was strangely red. Brother Wang Xian, you are here? Old Shui walked out of the room and saw Wang Xian. He had a shocked expression as he quickly made his way over. Old Shui, sorry for bothering you. Wang Xian nodded at Shui Yangren. Clearly he didn't know that Wang Xian had come. Father, we happened to meet while fetching old Qin previously. Therefore I asked Shui Jing to go and receive him. Shui Jiahua stood up, walked to his father's side and spoke softly. Shui Yangren's eyes lit up. Wah wah. Dad, so hot, so hot. Let's go swimming, swimming. The crying sounds of that little boy sounded once again. He choked for a moment but soon started crying loudly again. Wang Xian's attention was once again attracted by that little boy. He frowned and hesitated before extending his hand over. Hey pal, come and let brother take a look. Huh. When the middle-aged man heard Wang Xian, he frowned. Old Qin, who had a walking stick with him, looked at Wang Xian with doubts on his face. However, Shui Yangren was stunned. He commented immediately, quick. Xiao Qin, come and let brother Wang Xian take a look. When the middle-aged man heard old Shui, he was slightly shocked and turned to his father. Old Qin also looked at old Shui in surprise. However, old Shui wasn't paying attention as he introduced the little one to Wang Xian. Brother Wang Xia, little kite is old Qin's grandson. He has a congenital illness and the symptoms are really strange. Currently, we can only use internal energy to alleviate the effects of the illness. Why don't you take a look at it? Chapter 51, Making Friends? Chapter 51, Making Friends? Old Shui, who is this young chap? Seeing that Old Shui was ignoring him, Old Shui knit his brows slightly. He walked over and asked the question softly when he saw Wang Xian reach out to touch his grandson. A young expert. Old Shui paused before he uttered the words to Old Qin. Old Qin was slightly stunned. A young expert? The term coming out from Old Shui was extremely unusual given that his strength was ranked top 5 in Rivertown. Moreover, he had made a breakthrough in his strength too. As such, he looked at the juvenile with surprise. Wang Xian found out about the little boy's condition after he injected some dragon energy into his body. There was something congenital growing in his right kidney, and it connected his kidneys together. This caused kidney failure for the little boy. Just now, Old Shui must have been using his internal energy to nourish him so as to alleviate the problem. However, this was not a long-term solution, and it did not resolve the root problem. I can remove it with my dragon energy, but it would consume 50 to 60 points. Wang Xian pondered to himself as he lifted his chin to look at the two elders. Wang Xian, can you treat the grandson of Old Qin? Young chap, any ways to do it? The two elders asked Wang Xian quickly. Old Qin in particular was looking forward to his answer. Wang Xian nodded slowly. Yes, there is a way. Really, can you really cure my grandson's disease? Upon hearing Wang Xian, the hand that was holding on to the cane was trembling as Old Qin asked once again in disbelief. Master, you can save my son. The middle-aged man stood up suddenly and said in excitement. Yes, I can do it now. Wang Xian nodded. So long as you can cure him, the entire Qin family would be grateful to you. I hope you can save my grandson. Old Qin's cheeks blushed slightly as he clenched his cane tightly when he heard Wang Xian. Sure. Wang Xian stroked the head of the little fellow and said, Let's go. I'll cure your disease. Brother, can you really cure me? The little fellow was looking at him as his eyes got redder. Yes, of course. It will be done in a while. Wang Xian smiled and carried him up. 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. Wang Xian, you can use this room. Will not disturb you, Old Shui said hurriedly. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and carried the little boy into the room. The little boy was obedient as he stared blankly at Wang Xian. He was looking forward to it with his glimmering eyes. Wang Xian entered the room because he wanted to avoid setting the world on fire since getting the little boy fixed only took a few seconds. He had to stay under the radar. After all, he had yet to become invincible. Old Shui, can he really do it? Old Qin watched as Wang Xian carried his grandson into the room. Then he turned to Old Shui and uttered words that do not hang together. If he said he can, Old Shui confidently nodded. He looked at Old Qin. Old Qin, your luck is good today since you managed to meet Wang Xian. Relax, am I not looking good now? Old Shui spoke with a smile on his face. Old Qin was slightly stunned by his words. He stared with his eyes wide open. Old Shui, are you saying that your injury was? Old Qin smiled and nodded. Old Qin had a change in his expression. He looked to that room with great surprise. Apart from him, everyone in the river town knew about Old Shui. He had sustained severe injuries and visited many doctors for them. But it was pronounced that he could not live for more than 2 years. Everyone in Rivertown thought the Shui family would eventually fall, but no one expected that the old master of the Shui family would recover and make improvements in his strength. This surprised everyone. When Old Qin heard about this, he brought his grandson to Old Shui so that he could help to alleviate the illness. Never did he expect that he would have such an amazing encounter. Kite has hope, Dad. Kite has hope. The middle-aged man at the side was overjoyed at their unexpected good fortune. He was so happy that he acted like a kid. The eyes of Old Qin were full of thrills as he nodded slowly. The entire Qin family had worked painstakingly hard for their only grandson. Finally, they were relieved of it. Old Shui, how did you repay him back then? Old Qin looked at Old Shui hesitantly and consulted him. Repay. Old Shui smiled. Back then it was a coincidence. My grandson Xiao Jing offended Wang Xian accidentally. So, I gave him $10 million as compensation. However, Wang Xian was kind-hearted. He took the money as my medical fees. This, Old Qin was stupefied. How could such a good thing happen? Wang Xian is a kind-hearted person. Treat someone with sincerity, and naturally the other party will return the favor. Old Qin, you can give them a sum of money with some sincerity, Old Shui pondered and said. Thank you, Old Shui. If you need any help, please let me know. Old Qin nodded his head and spoke to Old Shui gratefully. Sure. Old Shui was taken aback by surprise. The Qin family might not come from the background of an ancient martial artist family, but they had the most robust backings, even from the government. Even the ancient martial artist families would not dare to offend the Qin family. Brother, you're awesome. I'm not feeling sick anymore. A kidderish voice interrupted the people in the living room. Old Qin and the middle-aged man spun around and saw the smiling little kite. His cheeks were rosy as he pulled Wang Xian's hand and walked out of the room happily. Little kite. The old man and the middle-aged man walked over quickly with faces full of surprises. Grandpa, Dad, bring me out. I want to go swimming. The little boy grinned as he spoke. Sure. The middle-aged man carried the little boy in his arms and kissed him hard on the cheek. Standing at the side, tears welled up in old Qin's eyes. His grandson's health had always been a load on his mind. Wang Xian, thank you for saving my grandson. Thank you. Old Qin looked at Wang Xian and bowed to him. You're welcome. He's cute too. Wang Xian laughed and shook his head. When he was treating the kid with his dragon energy, he accidentally obtained a thing from the stuff the kid spat out. It was a total surprise to him. Brother, I'm handsome, not cute? The little boy turned to him and said. Thank him now, the middle-aged man told little Kite. His son was born when he was in his mid-years. His greatest wish was to see his son growing up healthily. Thank you, brother. The little boy grinned. Wang Xian, these are the medical fees for my grandson. It's not a lot, but it is a token of my appreciation. The PIN number is the last 6 digits behind the card. Old Qin took out a card that he just prepared and handed it respectfully to Wang Xian. I, Qin Guohui, have some power in Rivertown. If you need any help in the future, you can call me directly. It is never enough to repay you for treating my grandson. I'll keep the money as the cost of treatment. You don't have to take the rest seriously. Wang Xian took the card with a smile. Firstly, the boy was cute and well-behaved. Secondly, he did this for the money. He was only left with $5 million. It was nothing less but not a lot. Hence, he depleted some of his dragon energy just to treat the boy. Besides, he could make some friends and build his network. At the same time, he obtained a treasure unexpectedly. This deal was a profitable deal to him. Chapter 52, We Fight, 1. Chapter 52, We Fight, 1. Wang Xian, where's your hometown? This is still the first time I've known someone as powerful as you are in Rivertown. Old Qin, you're really humble. I'm not as powerful as you might think. It's just some simple medical techniques. I was from Pengzhou. If there aren't any accidents, I might very well stay in Rivertown for a long period. If your medical techniques were simple, there wouldn't be any great techniques. Sacred Followers Guild and disciples of the medical saint aren't as great as their reputation would suggest. Wang Xian is indeed great in this. For my son's illness, I have consulted almost all the hospitals from the north to the south. A doctor typically has a kind heart. The reason why Brother Wang Xian has such extraordinary medical techniques has very much to do with his young chivalrous heart. You guys are praising me to the skies. I'm just 20 years old and couldn't take all these compliments. Otherwise I'll get arrogant. Wang Xian was chatting with Old Qin and Old Shui in the living room. Shui Jiehua and Old Qin's son had the intention to get on the good books of Wang Xian as they went along with the conversation. As for Shui Jing, he had nothing to contribute at all, nor did he dare to interrupt. All he did was to pour tea for others and laugh along. For Old Qin and Old Shui, they were in an authoritative position with extraordinary backgrounds. They naturally had an aura around them. As for Wang Xian, he wasn't uncomfortable while chatting easily with Old Shui and Old Qin, as he had the disposition of the divine dragon. Shui Jiehua and the middle-aged man were a little surprised that Wang Xian was able to chat carefreely with their fathers at such a young age. This was something that they couldn't do themselves. Among the younger generation in Rivertown, there was no one that could be compared with him. I heard from Xiao Jing that Wang Xian is now operating a restaurant. May I know where is it located so I can go and get some food when we are free? Hee, laughed Old Shui. I bought over an operating restaurant. It's in the vicinity of the University of Rivertown. I believe Old Shui and Old Qin might have heard of it before. It's called First Grade Restaurant. Wang Xian replied. Oh, First Grade Restaurant? I would have never thought that Brother Wang Xian has bought over First Grade Restaurant. This restaurant is rather famous in Rivertown. In that case, we will pay you a visit when we have the time. Old Qin remarked with a tinge of surprise. Sure, not a problem. You'll be more than welcome. When you guys are coming, remember to give me a notice in advance so I can make some preparations for you. Wang Xian laughed. Ah, great, great. Old Shui and Old Qin nodded their heads. They were naturally happy that they were able to make friends with an extraordinary person like Wang Xian. As for Wang Xian, he had a good impression of Old Shui and Old Qin. One could tell the qualities of another person by the way they spoke and behaved. Moreover, he had a joyous chat with them too. All right. Brother Wang Xian, I'll be hosting a banquet tonight. At that time, there will be many elites of River Town. If you are free, do join us. Old Qin invited him all of a sudden. I don't really know anyone, so I guess I'll not be going. Wang Xian was taken aback slightly and shook his head. It's enough to just know these two old men right here. At that time, Old Shui would bring his family along too. Since Brother Wang Xian would like to grow in River Town, it would still be beneficial to get to know more people. Old Qin smiled. All right. Wang Xian hesitated for a while before nodding his head. All right. Do you want to have lunch with us in the afternoon? Suggested Old Qin. This might not be possible, Wang Xian replied apologetically. I came over here to look around while I was waiting for a friend. It might not be possible in a while. As he spoke, his phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Haha, since Brother Wang Xian has things to attend to, just go ahead. We will be fine. Let's go to your restaurant for a meal when I've arranged a time with Old Qin. Old Shui smiled and said, Yeah, go ahead and attend to your matters. Wang Xian smiled and turned on his phone. It was a message from Guan Shuqing. After reading the message, Wang Xian looked at them. Old Qin, Old Shui. My friend has just sent me a message, so I have to rush over. Sorry about that. It's fine. Just go. Let's have a chat again when you are free. Wang Xian nodded his head and headed out. Big brother, let me send you over. I'm familiar with the place. Where is your friend currently? Shui Jing came over and asked him directly. Sea Cloud Pavilion 101 Private Lounge. It's near the sea. Wang Xian looked at Shui Jing and said, All right. Big brother, please follow me. Shui Jing smiled and went ahead to lead the way. Along the beach there was a row of tree houses. It was neatly arranged and looked extremely beautiful. Big brother, this is our Sea Cloud Pavilion 101 Private Lounge. Shui Jing pointed to a small tree house. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head, took out his phone and gave Guan Shuqing a call. Creak. Soon the door to the private lounge opened. Guan Shuqing, who was wearing a short-sleeve white shirt and black casual shorts, walked out from the room. Wang Xian. Guan Shuqing's expression didn't seem fine. When she saw Wang Xian, she forced a faint smile on her face. What happened? Wang Xian asked, concerned upon seeing her unusual self. Nothing. Guan Shuqing shook her head and said apologetically, It might be tough on you in a while. It's all my fault. What happened? Wang Xian frowned. What's the matter, Beauty Guan? Invite your boyfriend in. At this moment, an impatient male voice sounded from the room. Guan Shuqing's expression changed slightly. Let's go in. Wang Xian lifted one of his eyebrows. He walked beside Guan Shuqing and patted her softly on her back. Guan Shuqing felt a stream of warmth in her eyes. With shimmering eyes, she looked at him. After hesitating for just a moment, she extended her arms over and wrapped them over his arm. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat and the edge of his mouth arched up. He walked into the room with a face of smiles with Guan Shuqing. When he entered the room, Wang Xian saw 4 young men and 3 young girls sitting in the room. When the man sitting by the entrance saw Guan Shuqing come in with Wang Xian with her arms around his, gloominess flashed in his eyes. Hello everyone. Wang Xian smiled at them. The 4 young men in the room started scrutinizing him without reserve. Wang Xian? Suddenly, one of the girls had a shocked expression and exclaimed out loud. Mayor, you know him? The young man beside the girl asked in bewilderment. Of course, we are classmates. The girl whose name was Mayor clung onto the young man while revealing a deep cleavage to him. She then added, just a poor brat and student in the school. Is it? When the young man heard her reply, he was a little surprised. Of course. Mayor nodded her head. She turned to Wang Xian with a mocking smile and asked, Isn't it Wang Xian? Wang Xian smiled and shrugged his shoulders. Disdain flashed in his eyes as he remarked, Su Mayor is indeed true to the rumors spreading within the school. As he spoke, he sat down in one of the chairs by the side without fear. What do you mean by that? Su Meier was triggered suddenly and stared at him with outrage. I mean nothing? What did I just say? Wang Xian maintained his smile while replying. Su Meier was known to be flirtatious in school and changed her boyfriend frequently. Moreover, her boyfriends were all guys from a rich family. Who would have expected her to cling onto a young man outside of school at this moment? Lad, you're pretty arrogant to insult my girlfriend the moment you came in, the young man in front of Su Meier said coldly. Did I? In that case, is her calling me a poor guy an insult? Wang Xian smiled. What I've said is the truth. Su Meier exclaimed angrily at him. Did I tell a lie then? Wang Xian spoke plainly to Su Meier. He leaned back in the chair nonchalantly and looked at all the people around him. When he saw Guan Shuqing's embarrassed look previously, he knew that she must have been treated unfairly but didn't dare to retort. In that case, he had no intention or need to be respectful and polite to the people in the room. Let's just be arrogant then. Chapter 53 We Fight Too. Chapter 53, We Fight Too. Lad, you're quite arrogant. But I'm not sure if you're fit to talk big. With a cigarette in his hand, a young man in the center was staring at Wang Xian impassively upon seeing Wang Xian's attitude. A poor schoolboy is such an arrogance. What a courageous fool. Guan Shuqing, what a good boyfriend you've got. The young man beside Su Meier jeered as he looked at Guan Shuqing. Shuqing, is this your taste? Wu Qin, who was sitting beside Guan Shuqing, was staring coldly at Wang Xian with a ferocious look in his eyes. Guan Shuqing was looking pale. She thought it was only her and Wu Qin today and she was not expecting him to call his friends. That ruined her plan completely. In particular, those friends of Wu Qin were all from affluent families in the river town. The young man sitting in the center especially had an even more daunting background and status. Any one of them in the room was not someone Wang Xian could mess around with. Suddenly she regretted. What if this bunch of people decided to hurt Wang Xian because of her? Guan Shuqing stretched out her hand and tugged at Wang Xian's arm. Sensing the palm under the table, Wang Xian held her hand and gave her an assuring smile. Guan Shuqing went stiff as she felt touched and at the same time worried too. She has great taste. Wang Xian smiled and turned around to look at Wu Qin. He observed him from head to toe. At least, I'm more handsome than you. Umph. On hearing his words, Wu Qin banged the table with his hand. He stared at Wang Xian. Lad, I'm telling you to leave Shuqing now. Otherwise there will be a corpse found in the Bohai Sea. You're in way over your head. You can't even estimate your capability. Su Meier jeered at Wang Xian on hearing what he said to Wu Qin. Haha, you guys are awesome since you're asking for my life without any reason. What a great society. Since you're a well-known figure in society, why don't you introduce yourself? Wang Xian turned cold as he heard Wu Qin. Subsequently he laughed. Remember, my name is Wu Qin, the heir to the Wu's group. Wu Qin answered Wang Xian emotionlessly. Gong family in Rivertown, the young man next to Su Meier said with a smile. Song family in Rivertown. Another young man spoke smilingly. The young man in the middle chuckled. I'm by Xiaoming, you can find out about me yourself. Wu's group, Gong family, Song family, another one gave me a name to find out myself. You guys are awesome. Wang Xian placed his hand slowly on the table while staring at the four of them with a beaming face. Xiao Xian, don't act recklessly. Upon seeing Wang Xian's action, Guan Shuqing hurriedly whispered in his ears. She was afraid that Wang Xian would get into conflict with the rest of the people whom she treated with care even before her family went bankrupt. I told you to look for me when you have any difficulties. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Wang Xian consoled her softly and looked at the rest. I don't seem to have any conflicts with any one of you, right? Oh, if there is, it would only be with you, said Wang Xian looking at Wu Qin. Are you having cold feet? We don't need conflicts. We just hate you. Sitting in the middle of the room, Bai Xiaoming looked at Wang Xian mockingly. To be honest, thrashing people like you is not fun at all. But you're too arrogant. Here, drink these 2 bottles of liquor up and get lost. Lad, get out of this city. If I see you again, you'll bear the consequences, said Wu Qin while glaring at Wang Xian. He then turned to Guan Shuqing. Your father asked you to marry me, so don't try to be funny with me. If I find out you have other boyfriends, your father will teach you a lesson. What a brag. Don't you even look at yourself in the mirror? Said Su Meier disdainfully to Wang Xian. Her eyes were beaming with joy from the misfortunes of others. You guys can't do this. When Guan Shuqing looked at them, she was full of regret. If only she knew, she would not have asked Xiao Xian to come. It was all her fault. Guan Shuqing, if you want to find someone to annoy me, you should at least get someone capable of doing so. Wu Chen looked at Guan Shuqing coldly. Hee hee, you guys are indeed from the wealthy families. So stylish. Wang Xian looked at them and drew his lips slowly. This situation seemed to have happened before. In particular, the 2 bottles of liquor in front of him. Wang Xian took out his phone and stood up slowly as he was calling Xue Jing. Hey big brother, what's the matter? At this moment, Xue Jing was in a kitchen not far away. He was asking the chefs to whip up some signature dishes for Wang Xian. Someone asked me to find out about him. His name is Bai Xiuming, Wang Xian asked with a smile. Bai Xiuming? Xue Jing paused slightly. He should be from the Bai family, one of the ancient martial artist families in the river town. According to the ranking, they should be in 6th place, slightly weaker than us but not too bad. Oh, got it. I may break a few things. You've got to come and settle it later. Wang Xian hung up the phone after he finished his words. On the other side, Xue Jing froze before he screamed, Gosh, big brother is having a fight. Who the hell dares to provoke my big brother? Haha, you're not that stupid since you know how to find out about me from someone else. Bai Xiuming was slightly taken aback when Wang Xian picked up his phone. When he overheard what he said, he chuckled. Okay, I got your information. Wang Xian revealed a smile on his face as he reached for a bottle of liquor. Well, so now you know who you're messing with? Wu Chen was showing a face full of sarcasm as Wang Xian picked up the bottle of liquor. Xiao Xian. Guan Shuqing grabbed on Wang Xian's arm hastily. Wang Xian shook his head and said, It's all right. I haven't experienced this for very long. Last time it was for my sister. A smile surfaced on Wang Xian's face. 2 years ago he was busy with his schoolwork during the last year of high school. His younger sister was afraid that his studies might get affected, so she went to work in a pub to make some money. When he found out that someone bullied his sister, he ran over. The situation was similar to this. The other party wanted him to finish a box of wine before he could take his sister away. In the end, he reached out his hand. In the past it was for his sister. Today it was for another girl. In the past he had nothing except his enthusiasm and boldness. Now, everyone watched in horror when Wang Xian grabbed the bottle of liquor and slammed hard on Bai Xiuming. His strength was so mighty that no one could dodge the blow unless they were level 7 martial artists. Not to mention it was a sudden attack. Bai Xiuming, the young generation of Bai family, was not any better than Xue Jing. Bam. Upon seeing the bottle coming at him, Bai Xiuming could only react out of his instinct by blocking it with his arm. Ah! Bai Xiuming let out a devastating scream as his arm was shaking from the sharp pain. Wu group, Gong family, Song family, Bai Xiuming? Speak no more and just fight the hell out. Wang Xian flipped the table with his hand and sent his kick towards Wu Chen. If we can't talk it out, we fight. Chapter 54 Crippled. Chapter 54, Crippled. If we can't talk it out, we fight. Let's fight. Wang Xian had his own principles and bottom line. In the past, as long as there was anyone who dared to bully his sister, he wouldn't care who the other party was. He would just fight it out. Throughout primary school, middle school and high school, he was more resolute and brave than most kids as he was a kid without parents. He knew deeply that only by becoming stronger could he stop others from bullying him. Therefore, as long as there were people who bullied his sister during primary school, middle school or high school, he wouldn't care about the age of these people. He would just risk his life and fight them. 2 fights in middle school deterred anyone from bullying his sister. 3 fights in middle school stopped anyone in the high school from bullying his sister. And a fight outside the bar at that time made all the gangsters in the county wary of disturbing his sister. To those who dared to bully people he wanted to protect, Wang Xian would not waste his words on them. He never had much to say and would just fight it out. In the past, he relied on adrenaline and disregarding dangers to his life. As for now, he could rely on his personal strength. Moreover, Bai Xiuming, who had the strongest background in the room, was still weaker than Xue family. Therefore he could strike without being fearful of anything. Bam. How dare you hit me? You are dead this time. Bam. Arg. My leg is broken, my leg is broken. Don't hit me. Arg. You are crazy. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Bam. Wang Xian didn't say anything when he struck. He didn't like to speak while fighting as this would disrupt his flow of actions. Therefore, in less than 10 seconds, the other 3 young men were already lying on the floor of the room. They had food scattered all over them as they wailed in agony on the floor. This was still considering the fact that Wang Xian had controlled his strength. Otherwise they would have been dead. "How dare you hit me? How dare you ambush me?" Bai Xiaoming stared at Wang Xian and his body was shaking in anger. He had a hideous expression on him as he stood up and his eyes were bloodshot. "I'm going to kill you." Hee hee. Wang Xian took a glance at Bai Xiaoming and mocked. "Just you? You are still too weak." As he completed his sentence, he saw a bottle of white wine by his feet. He lowered his body and picked it up. "Die." Seeing Wang Xian pick up the bottle of white wine, his eyes twitched violently as he jumped. He lifted his legs and kicked towards Wang Xian violently. Bam. However, the bottle of white wine was smashed ruthlessly on his right leg, making him shriek in pain. Arg. Bai Xiaoming fell to the floor while wailing in agony. His right leg had been broken. Bam. Wang Xian heard his scream. He kicked impatiently at him and knocked him unconscious directly. "Wang Xian, how dare you hit them? You must be eager to die," Su Meier, who had been staying by the side, shrieked in horror. Wang Xian looked over coldly. "Xiao Xiaoyu. How could you start the fight? It's over, Xiao Xian." Guan Shuqing saw Wang Xian strike without warning. Moreover, he even broke their arms and legs. Her heart started beating violently as worries filled her and her eyes turned red with tears. "Big brother. Fuck. Who the hell dares to offend my big brother?" At this moment, Xue Jing had arrived. Seeing the mess and the 4 young men lying on the floor, he turned to Wang Xian and asked, "Big brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Do I look like I'm not?" laughed Wang Xian. "That's true. Big brother is so powerful," chuckled Xue Jing. He turned his attention to the 4 young men on the floor and a violent light flashed in his eyes. "Damn it. How dare you offend big brother?" As he spoke, he walked straight into the room, pulled them by their clothes and threw them on the floor. "Sorry to trouble you." Wang Xian saw the mess in the room and said, "Big brother, not at all." Xue Jing quickly shook his head. He looked at the 4 young men on the floor and said, "He is from Bai family and this must be Gong Liun from Gong family. Damn it. They must be too eager to die. Big brother, you are too lenient on them." As he finished his sentence, he kicked consecutively at the arms of the 4 men under the horrified eyes of Guan Shuqing and the other 3 girls. Crack 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 crack. The sounds of bones breaking propagated over. Xue Jing didn't hold back at all and crippled the arms of the 4 young men. Arg. The intense pain jerked them awake as they held onto their arms in anguish. "TSK. This is just a small lesson to you guys." Xue Jing sneered. He had witnessed Wang Xian's strength. Because of his provocation, he almost died from a single kick of Wang Xian. Based on what his father had told him, if Wang Xian had not stepped in to help, he would have been crippled. Therefore, when he saw that the injuries on the 4 young men weren't that serious, he piled on their injuries smartly to appease big brother Wang Xian. Director Xue. At this moment, 7 to 8 security personnel of the Summer Sun Resort had rushed over. When they saw Xue Jing, they quickly greeted him. "Call for an ambulance and send them away," Xue Jing instructed coldly. "Yes, Director Xue." The security personnel nodded their heads. "And the 4 of you get out of here." Xue Jing looked at the girls and shouted. Su Meier and the other 2 girls were stunned and looked at Xue Jing in horror. Guan Shuqing was also a little shocked as she shrank her body instinctively and hid behind Wang Xian in fear. "This is a friend of mine." Wang Xian patted on Guan Shuqing's shoulders and said to Xue Jing. Xue Jing's body shivered. When he saw Wang Xian's actions, he immediately said to Guan Shuqing, "I'm sorry, sister-in-law. It's a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. Guan Shuqing was a little overwhelmed at this point. "Big brother, it would seem like you haven't gotten your lunch yet. Why don't I inform my grandfather and let's have lunch together?" Xue Jing asked with a faint smile. Wang Xian hesitated for a while and looked to Guan Shuqing. "Have you eaten? Want to join us for lunch?" Guan Shuqing nodded her head vaguely but quickly added, "Xiao Xian. Those guys that you beat up had very strong backgrounds. Rest assured. It will be fine." Wang Xian shook his head at Guan Shuqing and smiled. "If you encounter any difficulties in the future, just tell me. If anyone bullies you, I'll beat him up for you." Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian, gripped onto the edge of her clothes and replied, "Thank you, Xiao Xian." Hee hee. Wang Xian stared at her and smiled. That. Do you mean what you said last night? See your performance. Hee hee. When Wang Xian saw Guan Shuqing's reaction, he had a resolve. He knew that he had fallen for this girl. When he saw her being treated unfairly and fought for her, he knew that the number of people he wished to protect had increased by one. Big brother Wang Xian, please go to this private lounge. My grandfather and old Qin would be there soon. Let's go and wait in the private lounge. Shuijing said. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head and said to Guan Shuqing, who was beside him, let's go. We will be having lunch with some friends in a while. Guan Shuqing nodded her head and took another look at the four young men moaning in anguish. Just a while ago, Wu Qin had looked at her arrogantly and told her that she would be his wife in the future and that she had to listen to everything he said. The few other young men around Wu Qin were all looking at her and mocking her about her family's bankruptcy and that she shouldn't think too highly of herself. At this moment, they were all lying on the floor. Chapter 55 Dragon Ball. Chapter 55 Dragon Ball. I heard you just punched a few ignorant lads who offended your companion out of anger. Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing were sitting at a table in the room, chatting when old Shui and old Qin walked in. Following behind them were Shui Jiahua, the son of old Qin, and little Kite. Old Shui spoke with a smile as he swept his glance across Guan Shuqing. Hee hee, those few guys were too braggy. They said they were from the Gong Song by family and they even threatened me. I can't hold my fists, Wang Xian said with a smile. Those affluent younger generations. It's good for you to teach them a lesson on behalf of their families, old Shui said with no importance. Yes, I didn't manage to hold back in time. Wang Xian chuckled. So good to be young. Old Qin said with a little envy. Haha, come take a seat. Old Shui laughed. Wang Xian, aren't you going to introduce your confidant? Wang Xian smiled and looked at Guan Shuqing. This is my classmate Guan Shuqing. Then he turned to Guan Shuqing and continued, this is old Qin and old Shui. Hello old Qin and old Shui. Guan Shuqing hurriedly greeted them as she was slightly taken aback by surprise when she saw Wang Xian having conversations with two extraordinary elders. Well, she's quite pretty. Old Qin smiled. Guan Shuqing? Do you know Guan Shuqing? The middle-aged man who was carrying little Kite asked suddenly. He's my father. Do you know him? Guan Shuqing looked puzzled at the middle-aged man. I heard about him. The middle-aged man smiled. Oh. Old Qin looked at his son with question marks on his face. Dad, we'll talk about it after dinner, the middle-aged man smiled and said. All right. Old Qin did not probe into it and continued his chat with Wang Xian and old Shui. The lunch took over an hour. Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing left the place after making a promise to attend the dinner event that night. Dad. Gazing at the back view of Guan Shuqing, the middle-aged man slightly frowned and continued, Guan Shuqing's father went bankrupt. What exactly is going on? Asked old Qin with his eyebrows slightly raised. Guan Shuqing was in the medical equipment business. This year, his vendor encountered some problems and landed him in hot soup. Eventually he went bankrupt because of this. Her father came to me for help some time ago, but I turned him down, said the middle-aged man. Oh really? Old Qin pondered. Invite Guan Shuqing to the dinner tonight. Yes, father. The middle-aged man nodded as he understood his father's intention. Guan Shuqing really has a good daughter. The middle-aged man pondered to himself. Tonight, 3 of us are going to disturb old Qin. Old Shui was wearing smiles on his face. He had a small family with only 3 of them practicing martial arts. During the early days it was Shui Yangren who supported the family. Luckily, his son and his grandson did not disappoint him. They had great talents in martial arts. Hence they could make a name in the river town. A while ago, some of the people were ready for some trouble when he was injured. This time he was going to announce the return of Shui family along with his son and grandson. They were still the old Shui family and could only be stronger than ever. Where are we going? Should we stay here? After coming out of the room, Wang Xian looked and asked Guan Shuqing, who was next to him. No. Guan Shuqing shook her head and gazed at him. Wang Xian beamed and looked at Guan Shuqing. When they exchanged gazes, Guan Shuqing turned her head away. Xiao Xian, will they be okay after you beat them up? Don't worry. Didn't you meet old Shui just now? It's his property here. Those Bai Gong family and Wu's group didn't even dare to provoke them. Besides, the one who broke the arm of that young man was old Shue's grandson, Wang Xian said confidently. You can't underestimate me. I also know one or two formidable people. But I'm not afraid of them even if I'm alone. Guan Shuqing was stunned as she looked blankly at Wang Xian. He had brought too much surprise to her such that she was getting mystified by him. But soon Guan Shuqing smiled and said, yesterday's agreement is still valid. Wang Xian drew his lips slightly and looked at Guan Shuqing. You said it. I said it. Heh, then you will have to prepare yourself for it. Wang Xian was on cloud 9 as he fixed his gaze on the girl before him quietly. She was almost 1.7 meters tall with long hair down to her shoulders. Her center parting hairstyle was only suitable for a goddess like her. The simplistic and monochrome dressing made her look cool and fit her innocent and good figure. Sensing Wang Xian staring at her, Guan Shuqing chuckled and spun her body around. Let's go back to the restaurant. I need to work so that I'm not taking the salary for granted. Sure, the boss will send you over. Wang Xian laughed cheekily. They came to the entrance and Wang Xian drove her back to the first-grade restaurant. Guan Shuqing hugged Wang Xian at his waist as she sat on the back seat. With a smiling face, she sniffed the fragrance from his body and leaned gently on his back. Boss. Manager Huang greeted them as soon as he saw Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing walking into the restaurant. Wang Xian nodded and returned to his office with Guan Shuqing. Manager Huang was sensible to walk out of the office. I will continue with my data. Guan Shuqing sat down and continued to analyze her data after finishing her sentence. Wang Xian nodded and returned to his seat. He fished out a ball of flesh that was about a thumb size from his pocket. It was the crystal-clear red, glossy flesh, which had been growing in Little Kite's kidney. Glazed Inferno Crystal, Level 6. Extractable Dragon Energy, 48,338. Superpower, Glazed Inferno. Wang Xian toyed the Glazed Inferno Crystal in his palm as he was deep in his thoughts. The Glazed Inferno Crystal was growing in the Little Kite's body. Once the heat broke out in his body, it would burn him. As time went by, the blazing temperature would get higher and eventually burnt Little Kite to death. In order to suppress the Glazed Inferno, the Qin family had been looking for martial artists to suppress it with their internal energy. However, Old Qin was unaware that, while internal energy might have suppressed the Glazed Inferno, it also provided nourishment to the fire and catalyzed its evolution. Hence, Old Qin looked for a level 2 martial artist to suppress it in the beginning. Subsequently, he noticed that the internal energy of level 2 martial artist was insufficient. Then he continued to level 3, 4, 5 and 6. Lastly, he found Old Shui, who was a level 7 martial artist today. This Glazed Inferno Crystal was upgraded to level 6 through those internal energy from the martial artists. Once the Qin family was unable to find a more advanced martial artist to suppress it, Little Kite would turn to ash immediately when the next relapse happened. Luckily they met him. I can increase over 40,000 points of dragon energy, but it would be more practical if I can refine it into a Dragon Ball. Wang Xian did not devour it immediately because he wanted to build a weapon. Basically, divine dragons did not have to use weapons, as their physical bodies were the most formidable weapon of all. However, there was a refining technique of divine dragon weapons in the divine dragon transformation for Dragon Ball. Chapter 56, A Storm in the Banquet, 1. Chapter 56, A Storm in the Banquet, 1. Dragon Balls were weapons unique to the dragon race. Based on their elemental attributes, they would have different Dragon Balls. Dragon Ball of Fire attribute could burn the skies and cook the seas, while the Dragon Ball of Ice attribute could freeze the world. A strong Dragon Ball was sufficient to change an entire world. Wang Xian looked at the Glazed Inferno Crystal in his hand. He dripped a drop of dragon blood on it before injecting dragon energy into the fire crystal. Soon he felt a sense of control. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. Through the upgrades used dragon blood and dragon energy, the Glazed Inferno Crystal started to give off its own glow. The crimson-red glow emitted a scorching hot temperature that could easily burn up a human. With just a change in his thoughts, the Dragon Ball levitated gradually in mid-air. All Wang Xian had to do was to instruct with his mind and the Dragon Ball would start moving rapidly. Great. Through the nourishment with dragon energy, this dragon energy will only get stronger and stronger in the future. Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised. Even at this very moment, the strength of this Dragon Ball was very horrifying. Its temperature could be 3,000 to 4,000 degrees. An ordinary man would be turned to ashes upon contact with the Fire Dragon Ball. At this moment, even my body couldn't take it head-on and a level 7 martial artist couldn't touch it at all. Wang Xian thought to himself. With another change in thoughts, he kept the Dragon Ball in his body. Great. Excitement filled Wang Xian's face. Seeing that Guan Shuqing was still reading the information, he switched on the computer and started playing. Xiao Xian, I'll be heading home. At 5+ in the evening, Guan Shuqing spoke to Wang Xian, who was facing the computer. Are you going back now? Do you need me to send you back? Wang Xian took down his earphones and asked. It's okay. Guan Shuqing shook her head. Let me know if there's anything, Wang Xian said to her. All right. Guan Shuqing smiled, nodded her head and headed out of the restaurant. It's 5+ now. I should get going at 7 p.m. Wang Xian looked at the time. There would be a banquet hosted by Old Qin at Old Shui's 5-star hotel tonight and he would be going over to take a look. When Guan Shuqing got home, her parents asked her to change into an evening gown and follow them to a banquet excitedly. Guan Shuqing was a little surprised by her parents' behavior. Quick! Qin family will be hosting a banquet at Summer Sun International Hotel tonight and they have invited us. Her father said agitatedly. Considering the state of her family at this moment, they were not qualified to attend a banquet hosted by the Qin family. However, they had surprisingly received an invitation. If Guan Shuqing's father could get to know some friends in the banquet or get into the good books of Qin family, it would be an easy task for him to make a comeback. Guan Shuqing was taken aback by what she heard from her father. Qin family? Summer Sun International Hotel? This made her recall her lunch with Old Qin and Old Shui at Summer Sun Resort in the afternoon. However, she did not read too much into it and couldn't believe that would be true. She changed into the clothes and headed to Summer Sun International Hotel with her parents in advance. Summer Sun International Hotel was a property under the Shui family of Rivertown. When one spoke of the Shui family, the upper social circle often referred to them as Ancient Martial Arts Family, Shui family. They were ranked 5th in the ranking of ancient martial artist families in Rivertown. However, they would probably advance up the ranking by 1 or 2 as the old master of Shui family had recently achieved a breakthrough. As for Qin family, they were the commerce superpower in Rivertown. Qin family's ancient dynasty property, ancient dynasty logistics and ancient dynasty real estate were all humongous organizations. The assets of Qin family were over $10 billion. Moreover, the background of Qin family was very strong. Currently, the old master of Qin family had a war comrade holding an important position in the government. The brother of Old Qin's wife was a very capable person in the capital of the province. Despite not being an ancient martial arts family, Qin family was still one of the strongest in existence within Rivertown. Even ancient martial arts families wouldn't dare to offend them. For the banquet hosted by Qin family tonight, 60% of the elites of Rivertown would be present. At 7:30 p.m., a heavy-duty motorcycle arrived at Summer Sun International Hotel. There was a row of luxury cars lined up neatly in front of the entrance of the hotel. Wang Xian removed his helmet and smiled as he looked at the luxurious hotel in front of him. It seems that I have underestimated the Shui family. This construction cost of this hotel would at least be several hundreds of millions. Wang Xian looked around before walking in. The 7th story was where the Qin family would be hosting the banquet and they had already booked the entire 7th story. Wang Xian walked out from the lift and headed to the main hall joyously. Mister, please show us your invitation. When he arrived at the entrance, the 2 employees were looking at him with weird looks. Invitation letter? Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders and replied, Qin Lianhui said it would be fine as long as I said I'm with him. You could give him a call to check. Qin Lianhui? Director Qin. The 2 employees were shocked. One of them took out a phone to verify after taking another look at Wang Xian. Mr. Wang, this way please. After hanging up the phone, the employee spoke enthusiastically. Wang Xian nodded his head and headed in. This is Qin family's banquet. Isn't this young man too casual with his dressing? If he could call our director Qin by his name, his background must not be ordinary. The 2 employees conversed softly as they saw Wang Xian off. Dressing? With Wang Xian's acute hearing, he could hear the conversation between the 2 of them clearly. He was shocked and quickly took a look at his attire. He was wearing casual attire from Versace and a pair of white casual shoes. I do look pretty handsome. Perhaps my attire isn't really suitable for the occasion. At this moment, Wang Xian saw the group of people in the banquet hall who had arrived. The guys were all in suits and the girls were in evening gowns. Looking across, he understood the level of this banquet immediately. Most of the men had watches on their wrists. As for the ladies, they had all kinds of necklaces around their necks. Damn it. This is my first time attending a banquet like this. I didn't know about these. Wang Xian truly didn't know. He hadn't given much thought about the banquet in the afternoon and headed over directly in his casual attire. My attire currently isn't really fitting for the occasion here. Forget it. Since this was organized by old Qin, he will know that I'm not being disrespectful to him. Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders and didn't pay too much attention to it. He walked inside in a straight line. He hadn't had his dinner yet. Therefore he chose to head to a corner to get some food. Isn't that shocking? When Wang Xian arrived at the corner, he was surprised to see a familiar figure. Guan Shuqing was sitting with a middle-aged man and a couple, and they were most probably her parents. Guan Shuqing was wearing a black evening gown tonight. She also had high heels on and exquisite makeup put up, making her look extremely alluring. Wang Xian walked over with smiles. Shuqing, what a coincidence. You are here too. Guan Shuqing was slightly shocked when she saw Wang Xian after lifting her head. She was also surprised and asked, Xiao Xiao, why are you here too? Guan Shuqing stood up. Her parents, who were beside her, turned their heads around with doubts. They took a look at Wang Xian before looking at their daughter again. Immediately they frowned. Daughter, who is he? Her father frowned and asked. To be dressed so casually in a formal setting, the first impression he had of Wang Xian was that this young man wasn't sensible. Chapter 57, A Storm in the Banquet 2. Chapter 57, A Storm in the Banquet 2. Uncle Auntie. Wang Xian greeted Guan Shuqing's parents when they looked over at him. After all, they could be his future parents-in-law. Her? Guan Shuqing's father frowned. He acknowledged and threw him a glance before he fixed his eyes on his daughter. Dad, this is my classmate. Guan Shuqing hesitated. Classmate? Her father looked at Guan Shuqing and nodded. Wang Xian was a little stunned, as he could sense that his future father-in-law did not seem to like him. Helplessly he looked at Guan Shuqing. I'll sit over here. As he said, he took a seat at the sofa next to Guan Shuqing. Dad, Mom, I'll chat with my classmate for a while, said Guan Shuqing to her parents as she nodded to Wang Xian. Sit with us. We're bringing you to meet some people later on, said Guan Shuqing's father, frowning. Guan Shuqing knit her brow, sat down with them helplessly, and smiled to Wang Xian with bitterness. Wang Xian shook his head slightly and gave her a smile. Shuqing, what kind of family does your classmate come from? Guan Shuqing's mother looked at Wang Xian with doubts and asked her. This classmate of mine, Guan Shuqing threw a glance at Wang Xian and answered with some pride, is really awesome, Mom. He's the same age as me, but he already earns millions of dollars. Isn't he superb? Oh, is that so? He's making millions at such a young age? Her mother said in surprise. Guan Shuqing's father was stunned too. He looked at his daughter and asked, what kind of business is he doing? Guan Shuqing chuckled, Dad, Mom, let me tell you this. That's the best part of him. He only has a younger sister, but he relied on himself and became an entrepreneur. Don't you think he's awesome? No background? Her father paused for a moment and frowned again. Nope, he relies on his own effort when he is just as young as me. Guan Shuqing laughed while saying it. Her father shook his head slightly. No wonder he entered this place in casual wear. I guess he followed someone here, but that person did not bring him to network with the rest of the people. Her father was disappointed. A young man who could earn millions was awesome indeed. But without any backings or background, his achievements would be limited. When he saw Wang Xian picking some food and beginning to eat alone, all the more he shook his head. Upon seeing the expression on her father's face, Guan Shuqing was unsure why. Director Wu is here. Let's go, Shuqing. Her father took a glance at the hall and saw a familiar figure. He quickly got up and told them. Guan Shuqing followed behind reluctantly. My future father-in-law seems to have a problem with me. When Wang Xian realized that Guan Shuqing's parents did not even look at himself, he picked up some fruit and started to feast on it. Then he fished out his phone and dialed for Shui Jing, asking her when she would be here as he was too bored. Piak. Suddenly, a loud slap was heard abruptly in the ballroom. Everyone was shocked, including Wang Xian. Wang Xian was toying with his phone when he turned around. Soon after, he stood up with a darkened expression. At the center of the ballroom, Guan Shuqing was covering her face with her head down while her father was standing there with a hideous look on his face. Next to them, a few middle-aged men stood there and watched impassively. His father walked over with a sullen face. Director Wu, Director Gong, Master Bai, Director Song, I'm sorry. I didn't expect she would do such a thing. It was my lack of discipline. I'm sorry. Wang Xian came to the middle of the ballroom as he watched Guan Shuqing bowing down and apologizing in fear. Do you think you can settle this with a slap? My son is lying in the hospital with broken limbs now. Chairman Wu glared at Guan Shuqing coldly. When he knew his son was sent to the hospital in the afternoon, he was shocked. He scrambled his way to the hospital where the doctor told him that the right arm and leg of his son were broken. It would take 3 to 4 months to recover. He raged when his son was immobilized. He learned from his son that everything happened because of Guan Shuqing and the boyfriend of hers. This made his blood boil. He immediately sent people to investigate the specific details and the culprit who beat his son up. Yet, Guan Shuqing had the cheek to greet him just now. If this was not the event of the Qin family, he might just make his move. The rest of the 3 middle-aged men were having the same sentiments as they stared coldly at Guan Shuqing. Guan Shuqing was fearful as he did not expect his daughter would have created such trouble. He trembled in his shoes. Shuqing. Wang Xian walked over and called her name gently. As soon as he saw Guan Shuqing was holding her face, he stretched out his hand slowly and caressed her cheek. Xiao Xian. A teardrop fell on his hand. Guan Shuqing lifted her chin with tears rolling in her eyes. It's all right. I'm here. Wang Xian stroked her face as his heart ached for her. He used the dragon energy to moisturize her cheek. Who are you? Get out of my way. Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian first before he stared at Guan Shuqing with a trembling body. I raised you up. It's okay if you're not doing me a favor. Yet you got into such trouble. I'm telling you, I don't have such a daughter like you. Wang Xian looked at Guan Shuqing and frowned. He then turned and gazed at the 4 middle-aged men. With a cold smile, he said, I was the one who beat up all your sons. What? Before the 4 middle-aged men could say anything, Guan Shuqing fixed his gaze deadly on Wang Xian. You were the one who beat up their sons. Yes, uncle. It was me and it had nothing to do with Shuqing. Wang Xian looked at Guan Shuqing and nodded. Great, so it was you. You scoundrel, how dare you hit their sons? You're courting your own doom. Guan Shuqing pointed at Wang Xian with a hideous face. You are just a wild kid without your manners. Guan Shuqing continued as he looked at the 4 middle-aged men, Master Bai San, Director Wu, Director Gong, and Director Song. It was all his fault, and it has nothing to do with me. On seeing Guan Shuqing pointing his finger at himself, Wang Xian knit his eyebrows tightly. Your daughter is involved in this matter. Master Bai San looked at Guan Shuqing and said coldly. He then turned to Wang Xian. How dare you beat up my son? You are really outrageous. You broke my son's arms and legs. Very well, I'll make sure you repay this tenfold. Director Wu was glaring at him angrily. Chapter 58, A Storm in the Banquet, 3. Chapter 58, A Storm in the Banquet, 3. Everyone in the banquet hall was attracted by the commotion and gathered over inquisitively. Wang Xian looked at Master Bai San, Director Wu, Director Gong, and Director Song with indifference and said plainly, I have already beaten them. What do you guys want? How arrogant of you to admit to beating them. Hee, what do you think your outcome will be after beating Master Bai San's son? A young man stood out and ridiculed Wang Xian upon hearing Wang Xian's reply. Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Master Bai San looked at the arrogant Wang Xian and sneered. We are at Qin family's banquet, so I wouldn't do anything yet. Once the banquet ends, I'll let you experience desolation. I'll let you know the outcome of crippling my son. Young lad, I don't care what kind of backing you have. I'll let you experience what is worse than death today. Director Wu stared fiercely at Wang Xian. I wonder who brought this underdressed lad in today. However, I wouldn't care who he is. You will pay the price for what you have done today. Director Song roared at Wang Xian. Who would have expected this lad to be so crazy to cripple the sons of Master Bai San, Director Gong, Director Song and Director Wu? He must be really eager to die. Yeah. To wear casual attire to attend a banquet, his upbringing must be really bad. He truly deserves death. Even if the people of the four families were to cripple him, it wouldn't be considered overboard. If this lad were to even touch my son, I'd kill him no matter what. The crowd started dissing and criticizing Wang Xian. How could he wear such attire to attend this banquet? In my opinion, we should throw him out, the young man who spoke previously said towards Wang Xian once again. Shut up. Wang Xian sneered upon hearing the criticism of the crowd and the group of arrogant people from the four families. Who the fuck do you think you are? Asking me to shut up? The young man shouted at Wang Xian the moment Wang Xian completed his sentence. He walked to the side of Master Bai San and said, Master Bai San, this kid is really arrogant to beat Xiaoming. Let him know the consequences today. He's really arrogant. It's been a long time since I've seen such an arrogant young man. Master Bai San looked coldly at Wang Xian. Excuse me. Suddenly, a cold voice propagated from the entrance. Following which, a beautiful lady walked over. She was in a red dress and had light makeup on her. Overall, she gave off a distant feel to others. Her entrance attracted the attention of many people instantly. Many young men looked towards this figure fervently. The eyes of the young man standing beside Master Bai San lit up as he clenched his fist tightly. The eldest daughter of the Lan family, Lan Qingyue. She's the future successor of the Lan family, Lan Qingyue. The one beside her is the general manager of the Lan family, Lan Gongwen. He is also Lan Qingyue's uncle. The future successor of Deep Sea Jewelry, Lan Qingyue. They are the strongest listed company in Rivertown and could be considered as the leaders in the jewelry industry in the country. Some people saw Lan Qingyue and exclaimed softly. Hi uncles, my friend is at fault for this incident. I would like to ask for forgiveness on his behalf. Lan Qingyue looked at Wang Xian and the cold look in her eyes flickered for a moment. She walked to the side of him and looked towards Master Bai San and the group. What? Why would Lan Qingyue try to protect this kid? What's the matter? Could it be that this lad has a good relationship with the Lan family? The surrounding crowd was surprised. Some people were even looking at Lan Qingyue with shock. Wang Xian was also looking at Lan Qingyue with bewilderment. He had not expected to see her at this place and had not expected her to help him. Lan Qingyue turned her head over, smiled at Wang Xian and commented, "What a coincidence." This smile was just as beautiful as 100 flowers blooming at the same time. The cold-looking Lan Qingyue had an indescribable charm. Thank you. Wang Xian expressed his gratitude to Lan Qingyue. Recalling that he had rejected her invitation for a meal twice, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Lan Qingyue smiled and nodded her head. She turned her attention towards Director Wu, Director Gong, Director Song, and Master Bai San. Dear uncles, please look past this incident for my sake. Miss Lan. When Director Wu, Director Gong and the group saw Lan Qingyue, their expressions changed. Deep Sea Jewelry was a large corporation with a market capitalization of close to $10 billion. This was more than 10 times greater than theirs. Even if the four families added their assets together, they still wouldn't be a match for Deep Sea Jewelry. The only one who wasn't wary was Master Bai San. This was because Bai family was an ancient martial artist family and couldn't be measured directly using typical cash value and background. However, Master Bai San still wasn't very pleased. After all, a family that was worth $10 billion would have a complicated and widely connected background. When one's money reached an outrageous amount, it could also be seen as one's strength. Miss Lan, this friend of yours crippled the arms and legs of my son. Aren't you being unreasonable to ask me to let this go? Master Bai San stared at Lan Qingyue but his eyes were flickering. That's right, Miss Lan. My son was crippled because of him. If I just let this go, how would anyone show us respect in the future? Director Wu added with a solemn face. Uncles, I, Lan Qingyue, am willing to compensate for the injuries of your beloved sons. Please don't pursue this matter anymore for my sake, Lan Qingyue said with a determined look. Lan Qingyue's words caused the atmosphere of the surroundings to solidify. No one would have expected that the eldest daughter of Lan family would try to protect this wild lad and disregard the fact that she would be going up against four families. This caused a lot of young men in the crowd to be filled with jealousy. This lad doesn't deserve this at all. Guan Shirqing's expression also changed as he looked on with disbelief. Director Wu, Director Gong, Director Song and Master Bai San had a ghastly look. They had not expected that the eldest daughter of the Lan family would be so insistent on this matter, disregarding the chances of offending them in order to protect this young man. This caused them to be very embarrassed by the situation. What's the matter? However, at this moment, a frivolous voice sounded. A middle-aged man walked over from the inner area of the banquet hall and looked inquisitively towards the center. Everyone was surprised and turned their attention to their back. All of them saw a middle-aged man carrying an apple in hand, eating it while walking. Second Master Qin. Second Master Qin. Some people in the crowd immediately gave their greetings to this middle-aged man. Second Master Qin was looking a little pale and had serious eye bags. He also looked like a frivolous guy who liked to fool around. When the crowd saw his behavior, they didn't look down on him. Instead, they were addressing him as Second Master Qin, with the utmost respect. This was because he was the second son of Old Qin, or an adopted son. Old Qin had a total of 2 sons. The second son was adopted and was the son of a war comrade of Old Qin. After his war comrade had passed away, he asked Old Qin to take care of his son. Old Qin took him in and adopted him as his son immediately. However, this adopted son was arrogant and cocky from a young age and got into a lot of trouble in Rivertown. He even caused the death of some people. Despite nearing his 40s, he still wasn't married and didn't have a child. Rumors had it that he had a strange fetish and Old Qin wasn't too fond of him. Despite all that, Old Qin valued relationships and had been turning a blind eye to the actions of this adopted son. Although he was an adopted son, he was still the second master in the Qin family. No matter how useless he might be, he was still high above the rest as his identity was known to everyone. Second Master. Master Bai San immediately called out Second Master Qin when he saw him. Bai family was inferior to Shui family and was even further behind Qin family. When Master Bai San saw Second Master Qin, he still had to greet him politely. Moreover, Master Bai San had always had a good relationship with Second Master Qin. What's the matter, Master Bai San? Second Master Qin asked Master Bai San before biting his apple. Second Master, please be the judge for us in this matter. Master Bai San explained the whole situation to Second Master Qin. In the end, he whispered something to Second Master Qin. What? Such a thing has happened? Second Master Qin looked ahead and his vision fell onto Wang Xian and Lan Qingyue. Oh Nish Qingyue, it's better if you stay out of this. This lad deserved the punishment for breaking the arms and legs of others. Wah. Upon hearing Second Master Qin's words, the crowd erupted. Since Second Master Qin has spoken, it would be pointless even if Lan Qingyue put in a good word for him. This lad is as good as dead. Chapter 59, A Storm in the Banquet 4. Chapter 59, A Storm in the Banquet 4. Things changed once again. When everyone thought that Lan Qingyue could shield this lad, Second Master Qin put it to a stop. Second Master Qin was the godson of Old Qin. Even though he was not the favorite son, his status was high enough to suppress Lan Qingyue, who had yet to inherit the deep-sea jewelry. True enough, Lan Qingyue frowned slightly when she heard what Second Master Qin said. Second Master Qin observed Wang Xian from head to toe. He then ditched the apple core in his hand into the trash. Lad, what an insensible lad to come to our function in casual wear. Who taught you to be ill-mannered? Second Master Qin, he is my friend. I hope you'll let him off on my account, said Lan Qingyue to Second Master Qin with a frowning look. Qingyue, we have to be reasonable. This fellow should bear the consequences since he broke the limbs of others. You better not involve yourself. Second Master Qin smiled at Lan Qingyue. Qingyue. The middle-aged man who has been following beside Lan Qingyue tugged her arm and shook his head. Since Second Master Qin is involved, you better leave this matter alone. You won't have any control over this. No way, uncle. He is my friend. Lan Qingyue gritted her teeth and looked at her uncle with determination. The middle-aged man shook his head again. Qingyue, don't be reckless. You have to spare a thought for the Lan family too. Without Second Master Qin's involvement, we can help. But... The middle-aged man shook his head. He could not understand why his niece insisted on helping this young man. If Second Master Qin was not involved, It did not matter at all since Lan family was capable of dealing with this. But the Qin family was the most influential family in the river town. Lan Qingyue had a drastic change in her expression. She looked at Wang Xian worriedly. This has got nothing to do with him. It was all because of me. Guan Shuqing shuddered as she stepped forward and spoke with determination in her eyes. Nonsense, all this happened because of that lad and has got nothing to do with the Guan family. Guan Shuqing, I don't have such a daughter like you. Guan Shuqing was trembling with anger as he bawled. It was I who beat them up. What has it got to do with you? Wang Xian felt comforted when Lan Qingyue lent him a helping hand, and when Guan Shuqing stood in his defense. He slowly walked to the middle of the ballroom and swept his gazes across Second Master Qin, Master Baisan and the rest of the people. With a cold voice he said again, I did what I did. If things like this happen again, it won't be as simple as this time. Arrogant lad. After you walk out of this door today, I'll make sure you live in despair forever. Master Baisan growled at Wang Xian with a darkened expression. You're arrogant, simply too arrogant. When Second Master Qin saw Wang Xian's attitude, he sneered at him. Why don't we settle this matter now? A cold smile surfaced on Wang Xian's face as he walked slowly to Master Baisan. Wang Xian. Lan Qingyue, who was next to him, quickly called him when she saw Wang Xian walking over. There was no response from Wang Xian as he continued making his way to Master Baisan. How dare you create trouble in the Qin family's banquet? Second Master Qin's expression turned cold when he saw the menacing Wang Xian walking over. How dare you play punk in Qin family's banquet? Lad, you're courting your own death. Master Baisan glared coldly at Wang Xian. He is seeking his own death to act arrogantly in the Qin family's dinner function. Lad, even if we don't kill you, Qin family will not let you off either. Director Wu, Director Song, Director Gong, and the rest of the guests spoke in a low voice while looking at Wang Xian. Reckless lad, seeking his own death. The middle-aged man standing beside Lan Qingyue shook his head slowly. All of you are too noisy. I'll destroy you today. Wang Xian raged. His anger was not only targeting at Master Baisan and the other three people. It was also because of the father of Guan Shuqing and the Qin family. Old Qin invited me over and look what his second son is doing to me. What does he take me Wang Xian for? Is this the way the Qin family treats their guest? A ferocious look flashed in Wang Xian's eyes as he stared at Master Baisan. The dragon energy exploded from his body, enveloping Master Baisan and Second Master Qin. Both of them had a drastic change in their expression as they sensed the immense oppression of the young man. Lad, if you dare to fight in Qin's place, I'll make sure you die a horrible death, said Second Master Qin harshly as he stared at Wang Xian with cold eyes. You're asking for your death if you strike. I'll teach you a lesson so that you'll learn some rules today. The young man before Master Baisan brightened up his eyes when he observed the situation. In a swift movement he swung his fist at Wang Xian. Gu Qinglong struck. Gu family is an ancient martial artist family that came from other cities. They did not have many members in the family and their skills were not that formidable, but still they could not be underestimated. This young lad is simply courting his own death. How dare he strike in the banquet of Qin family? This is as good as slapping them in their faces. He's finished. Just now, Master Baisan and the rest of them did not dare to strike in the midst of the banquet. This lad is just too arrogant. He is seeking a quick way to die. The rest of the guests watched Wang Xian as though they were looking at an idiot. You talk too much. Impassively, Wang Xian looked at the young man who struck at him. He swung out his fist straight at him. How dare an ordinary guy take my fist? Go to hell. Gu Qinglong displayed a disdainful look. He wanted to prove himself. That was the reason why he was so eager to strike today. He wanted to announce the arrival of Gu family in the river town and befriend the Bai family, another ancient martial artist family. In this case he could quickly build up his foundation. Ka. His thinking was good. But a bone-cracking sound was heard when the fists collided with each other. Gu Qinglong's arm was broken under the formidable power. Useless thing. Wang Xian did not even display 20% of his power. He jeered at Gu Qinglong who was screaming in pain on the floor. Ah! Gu Qinglong was crying out in agony as he looked frightened. Ah! The rest of the guests let out a gasp and a cry as they saw Gu Qinglong's deformed arm. Wang Xian looked at Master Baisan and a cold smile surfaced. No hurry. We don't have to wait until we leave. We can settle this one by one now. As he was talking, he made his move and launched his attack on Master Baisan. You're asking for it. I will kill you today. Master Baisan clenched his fist with veins popping out. Master Baisan was a martial artist with level 5 strength. He was shocked to see that the young man before him was also a martial artist. But he had no fear of him. No wonder you're arrogant. But you're too full of yourself. Go to hell. With a hideous look, Master Baisan moved like a fearsome tiger as 5 of his fingers turned into claws. Sending me to hell? You are not fit to do it yet. Wang Xian looked at Master Baisan scornfully. He lifted his foot and swept it across. Die. Master Baisan stretched his claws at Wang Xian's leg. Bam. Master Baisan felt like he was scratching on a metal surface the moment they collided. Immediately, a mighty force hit his shoulder. Bam. The mighty force sent Master Baisan crashing to the table next to him at a much faster speed. He then landed on the ground and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. You. The moment Master Baisan was knocked down within a split second, Second Master Qin was a little terrified when he saw Wang Xian's emotionless look in his eyes. He tried to act tough as he yelled, "Stop it. Otherwise the Qin family will not let you off. No one dares to provoke us in the river town." You won't let me off? You might want to ask if Qin Guohui dares to say this to me. Wang Xian let out a low growl with an impassive expression. The rest of the people were shocked to hear this. Qin Guohui, old Qin. Chapter 60, A Storm in the Banquet, 5. Chapter 60, A Storm in the Banquet, 5. You. What an arrogant brat. Second Master Qin pointed at Wang Xian and was shivering in anger. At this very moment, old Qin and his family, together with the 3 generations of Shui family, were walking towards the entrance of the banquet hall. You won't let me off? You might want to ask if Qin Guohui dares to say this to me. However, just as they arrived at the entrance, all of them heard this angry roar. Old Qin was completely stunned and old Shui immediately frowned. Grandfather, that's brother Wang Xian's voice, Shui Jing commented quickly upon hearing as his expression turned solemn. Old Qin clearly heard Wang Xian's voice too. His expression changed quickly and a worried look hung on his face. Let's quickly get there and take a look. He couldn't understand why Wang Xian would let out such an angry roar. He couldn't understand why the seemingly amiable Wang Xian, who he had an enjoyable lunch with in the afternoon, would be so angry. Disregarding the fact that old Shui believed that he had unparalleled horrifying strength, Wang Xian had just cured his beloved grandson. Their Qin family couldn't make him an enemy. Moreover, even the Qin family wouldn't go offend such a strong expert for no reason. In the modern era, other than the society, there was also an underworld. Although the Qin family was very strong in society, they still wouldn't dare to offend strong experts of the underworld. Old Shui frowned and quickly hurried in. At this moment, the crowd was completely astounded by Wang Xian's words. Everyone was shocked as no one expected him to shout that Qin Guohui wouldn't dare to say this to him in the Qin family's banquet. Step aside. All of you step aside. At this moment, Shui Jing's growl sounded from behind the crowd. Everyone who was gathered here was shaken as they quickly looked back. Old Qin is here and old Shui is here too. A middle-aged man couldn't contain his shock and exclaimed. The crowd opened up a path of them automatically. This lad is finished. His death is certain. A weak voice sounded from the side. When Lan Qingyue saw old Qin and old Shui, she couldn't help but feel deeply worried. As for Guan Shuqin, she was dumbfounded when she looked over. Following which, joy and relief replaced her initial emotions and were shown on her face. They really are. They really are. She was shaken up. The 2 people who were walking at the front of the group were the 2 old men she'd had lunch with in the afternoon. When she arrived, she was still a little suspicious. However, she didn't dare to think so and assumed that they were these 2 old men. At this moment, all her worries had dissipated entirely. She recalled the attitude of the 2 old men when speaking with Wang Xian in the afternoon. She was more confident that Wang Xian truly had the qualification to say what he had just said previously. You're finished? How dare you start a fight and injure others in a banquet hosted by the Qin family? You're finished? My dad is here. Second Master Qin was exhilarated upon seeing old Qin walking over. Wang Xian's expression didn't change a bit and was still emitting the aura of the divine dragon. He turned his head around and looked towards old Qin's family and the 3 people from Shui family. What a strong disposition. Old Shui could sense the faint aura around Wang Xian and was shocked. He thought that his strength was probably similar to Wang Xian after making the breakthrough. However, he felt that he still wasn't a match for Wang Xian after feeling this disposition. The Qin family and Shui family walked over in a straight line. The surrounding atmosphere had frozen up and no one even dared to take a deep breath. When old Qin heard what his adopted son said, his hand, which was holding onto the walking stick, started trembling. He walked directly towards Second Master Qin without any expressions. Father, he actually dares to, in the banquet organized by us. Ark. When Second Master Qin saw his father walking over, he reported happily. However, before he could even complete his sentence, the walking stick in old Qin's hand had landed ruthlessly on his leg. Crack crack. The walking stick made of solid wood broke directly. One could easily imagine how furious old Qin was. Father, why did you beat me? Second Master Qin's face turned pale as he grabbed onto his leg and spoke in horror. Old Qin suddenly heaved a sigh. When your father passed away and handed you over for me to take care of, I saw you as my biological son. However, you have repeatedly, I have always turned a blind eye to your actions, but you didn't learn your lessons and committed so many heinous acts under the name of our family. There will be a day when our family might get into serious trouble because of you. Old Qin threw his walking stick onto the floor. Lianhui transfer Rivertown mining grounds to his name. From this day onwards he would have nothing to do with our Qin family. No matter if he is dead or alive, it has nothing to do with the Qin family. Our Qin family isn't blessed enough to have him. Old Qin's strong words propagated throughout the banquet hall. No one could have expected this development. Second Master Qin was directly expelled out of Qin family. However, what shocked the crowd the most was old Qin's bowing down slightly as he spoke to the young man. I'm sorry, brother Wang Xian. I'm sorry. It's because of my loose teachings that you had to suffer. Brother, don't be angry. Hug hug. Little Kite looked at the solemn-faced Wang Xian and said as he walked in front of him and raised his arms. After witnessing the attitude of old Qin and the cute little Kite, a smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. He reached out his arm and carried little Kite. Old Qin, it was I who was impulsive. Sorry for causing you troubles. Old Qin heaved a huge sigh of relief upon seeing Wang Xian's expression. He smiled, that's great. As long as brother Wang Xian doesn't blame it on this old man. Wang Xian smiled and replied, I was impulsive. I hope you wouldn't blame me. Haha. Old Qin laughed out. Old Shui and I were a little late. Sorry about it. Brother Wang Xian, come. Let us take a seat now. I'll definitely give you a good explanation for what happened today. Wang Xian smiled. Grandfather, I have found out about the incident. Shui Jing returned immediately after going over to a service attendant to find out more. Subsequently, he repeated the whole event softly. It seems like it's still about the incident in the afternoon. By family? A murderous intent flashed past old Shui's face. In that case, I shall use by family to establish our dominance. As for the rest, I'll leave them to Qin family to settle. Yes, father. Shui Jiahua nodded his head and looked to Qin Lianhui. Qin Lianhui nodded his head and headed directly to Director Wu, Director Gong and Director Song. As for Shui Jiahua, he walked over to Master Bai San who had crawled up. Father, no. This can't be. At this moment, Second Master Qin was mumbling to himself in a daze. He couldn't believe that what had happened was the reality. If he left Qin family, who would he be in Rivertown in the future? And at this moment, the crowd in the banquet hall had their attention focused on the young man who was carrying old Qin's beloved grandson. They were completely lost. They would have never expected things to end up this way. Second Master Qin was expelled from Qin family and that young man could make old Qin bow down to apologize. They quickly looked towards the future successor of Qin family who was heading towards Director Wu, Director Song and Director Gong. They then looked at Shui Jiahua, the future pillar of Shui family. Eventually they turned and saw Director Wu, Director Song, Director Gong and Master Bai San. Their faces had turned pale and they seemed to be scared out of their wits. Chapter 61, A Storm in the Banquet, 6. Chapter 61, A Storm in the Banquet, 6. Master Bai San, the arm of your son was broken by my son. Serves your son right for offending the benefactor of Shui family. In the ballroom, Shui Jiahua walked towards Master Baisan and stared coldly at him. Master Baisan was trembling as he looked at the young man between old Shui and old Qin. A bitter smile surfaced on his face as he looked embarrassingly at Shui Jiahua. From the exchange just now, he knew that he had provoked the wrong people. The strength that the young man had exploded just now was definitely coming from someone whom the Bai family could not afford to offend. But you are equally wicked. After Shui Jiahua threw out his cold and harsh remark, he punched out at Master Baisan's shoulder immediately. Upon seeing the attack from Shui Jiahua, Master Baisan wore a different expression. But he did not dare to resist. Old Shui from the Shui family was thought to be a dying person. Yet he had suddenly recovered and made a breakthrough in his level. This reshuffled the rankings of the ancient martial artist families in Rivertown. The Shui family was already more formidable than the Bai family. Now they had become people whom they could not afford to provoke. Kaka. A bone-cracking sound was heard from the ballroom. Everyone was horrified to see Master Baisan lying on the floor as he hugged his arm in extreme agony. Your broken arm shall serve you a lesson. If you have any grievances, the Shui family will answer all of them, said Shui Jiahua coldly to Master Baisan. Everyone was shocked to watch the fearsome Shui Jiahua. Director Gong, Director Song, Director Wu. On the other side, Qin Lianhui came to them and looked at those millionaire directors. Director Qin. They quickly addressed him. At this time, cold sweat was breaking on their foreheads with eyes full of horror. Mr. Wang is a guest of the Qin family, Qin Lianhui said emotionlessly. We were also there in the afternoon when it happened. We were planning to give you a warning tonight. Qin Lianhui was speaking impassively as though he was talking about a trivial matter. Yet, the directors could not help but to shake in their boots as they knew that it was the end of the story for them. Director Qin, we were wrong. I really didn't know. If I had known, I would have killed that unfilial son of mine. Director Wu almost went jelly as he bowed with his shaken body. Leave Rivertown now and don't let me see you again. Qin Lianhui gestured, annoyed at them. Their faces turned black when they heard what Qin Lianhui said. Yet, they were in such despair that they had nothing to say. Asking them to leave Rivertown was equivalent to asking them to give up their foundation over here. But, they were powerless to put up any resistance because this was the decision made by the Qin family. It was all my son's fault for offending someone that he shouldn't. The three directors clenched their fists and walked out like zombies. There was no place in the entire Rivertown for them. Master Baisan also left with his face full of despair. Anything that took place in the society would have to be resolved within the society. So were the underworld matters. Even though Bai family was not asked to leave their base in Rivertown, the Shui family would forever be pressing on them. Bai family would not be able to obtain some resources in the future. Throw him out. As Shui Jing spoke to one of the hotel staff, he stepped on both legs of Gu Qinglong at the side with force. The surrounding crowd could not help but shiver when they saw the happenings unfolding. They were glad that they did not intervene or jeer at that young man. But those who spoke ill of that young man were standing there with their hearts in their mouths. Second Master Qin, the adopted son of old Qin, had been expelled from the Qin family. Master Baisan of the Bai family had gotten his arm broken by Shui Jiahua. Gong, Song and Wu family would no longer have their foothold in Rivertown. Gu Qinglong of the Gu family who had helped Master Baisan would only have a tough life in Rivertown. All these were results of offending the young man. They stared blankly at the young man who was talking jovially with old Shui and old Qin. No wonder he did not regard the Gong, Wu, So and Bai families highly. No wonder he dared to come to this banquet in casual dressing. He did not have to care, and he had no need to care about any of them. This symbolized power. Aren't old Shui and old Qin in casual wear too? At this moment, Guan Shiqing, who was in the middle of the crowd, was in a daze. He was looking in disbelief at the young man who was sharing a jovial conversation with old Shui and old Qin. The thought of the young man addressing him as uncle with smiles on his face. The thought of him treating the young man coldly, scornfully and even. He regretted it very much. If I could reverse everything, I would surely hold on to him. Definitely. Why did this happen? Guan Shiqing felt restless. It was such a good opportunity for the rising of Guan family again. At this time he saw Director Qin walking towards him. He was slightly uptight and fearful. Miss Guan niece Lan. Guan Shiqing noticed that Director Qin was walking towards his daughter. Uncle Qin. Lan Qingyue answered politely. Director Qin. Guan Shuqing nodded to Qin Lianhui. They had been having lunch in the afternoon just now. I'm sorry, Miss Guan, to have let you suffer some injustice. Director Qin apologized to Guan Shuqing. No, Guan Shuqing quickly shook her head. With Xiao Xian around, I didn't suffer much. Right, there is Wang Xian around. Qin Lianhui laughed. He turned to Guan Shuqing and smiled. Director Guan, we will discuss your matter later. Director Qin. Guan Shuqing was stunned. Upon seeing the other party's smiling face, he suddenly got excited. He looked towards his daughter and thought of some possibilities. Piak. Guan Shuqing walked to his daughter and slapped himself on his face. Girl, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. Don't blame me. When Guan Shuqing saw her father walking towards her, she was feeling complicated. She sighed softly. After all, this was her father. Dad, I don't blame you at all. Guan Shuqing shook her head. I'm glad that you don't blame me. I'm glad to hear that. Guan Shuqing nodded with a smile. He hesitated before he asked, Girl, what's the relationship between you and that young man? When Guan Shuqing posed that question to Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue was also anxious to hear the answer. Friends, we're just friends. Guan Shuqing replied, knowing what her father was thinking. Just friends? Guan Shuqing was a little disappointed. He was hoping that the young man could be the boyfriend of his daughter and his son-in-law. If that were the case, who would dare to offend him, Guan Shuqing and the entire Guan family in the future? Chapter 62, A Storm in the Banquet, End. Chapter 62, A Storm in the Banquet, End. I'd like to go over and say hi to two friends of mine. Old Qin and Old Shui, please have a chat now. The banquet continued as per normal. Although the atmosphere had changed a little, the impacts weren't that great. After informing Old Qin and Old Shui, Wang Xian turned his attention to the banquet hall and headed towards where Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue were. Feeling the intentional and unintentional gazes from the crowd, the edge of Wang Xian's mouth started to arch up. Chairman Lan, thank you. Wang Xian saw Guan Shuqing was talking to her parents and thus went over to Lan Qingyue to express his gratitude first. Just a while ago, Lan Qingyue had to endure the huge pressure from the crowd to put in good words for him. Lending a helping hand when one was in need was tough, while sucking up to one when he was basking in the light of success was easy. She belonged to the former. He was a little surprised that Lan Qingyue had chosen to help him but was also grateful to her. Lan Qingyue, who was in a red evening gown, looked extremely alluring under the warm lights of the banquet hall. While wearing high heels, she was approximately the same height as Wang Xian. Her beauty couldn't be appropriately described with words. You're welcome. Lan Qingyue looked at him with fervent eyes. As compared to their previous encounter, she felt that the strange quality of Wang Xian had gotten stronger by a little. It's too heartbreaking that you have rejected my invitation for a meal twice to thank you for the previous incident. Lan Qingyue looked at him and recalled his rejections. She couldn't help but comment unhappily. Hee. Wang Xian laughed awkwardly. I've really been a little busy in the last 2 days. However, if you would like to have a meal together, you can come to my restaurant. I'm staying there for almost the entire time each day. I could also give you a treat. Your restaurant? Great. Upon hearing his reply, Lan Qingyue revealed a faint smile and nodded her head. In that case, we have a deal. Yeah. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Just beside them, Guan Shuqing felt his head aching when he saw Lan Qingyue and Wang Xian chatting. He naturally knew who Lan Qingyue was, as she was the future successor to the Lan family. Her family wealth was among the top 3 in Rivertown currently. Moreover, there was nothing one could pick on about Lan Qingyue's looks. Within the entire Rivertown, she was at the highest level. Seeing how she had tried to protect Wang Xian a while ago, he was able to tell something from it. When it came to looks, he was confident that his daughter wasn't inferior to Lan Qingyue. However, when it came to family background, the difference was stark. It was especially so after what he said previously. At the thought of this, he started to regret further. He wasn't just feeling regretful but also feeling a sense of danger. If his son-in-law was snatched away, it would be pointless for him to cry over it then. Guan Shuqing's expression was changing constantly. He was thinking of ways to get on the good books of Wang Xian and also to make up for what he'd done previously. Guan Shuqing saw Wang Xian and Lan Qingyue chatting joyously and was feeling a little uncomfortable about it. After finishing his chat with Lan Qingyue, Wang Xian turned his head and smiled at Guan Shuqing. He walked over and asked, "Shuqing, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Guan Shuqing nodded her head. She looked at him and said, "Thank you, Xiao Xian." "You don't have to." Wang Xian smiled and shook his head. "Son-in-law, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I was wrong in the incident previously. It's all my fault. Please forgive me." At this moment, Guan Shuqing came over shamelessly and spoke with a sincere face. He was even calling Wang Xian his son-in-law. Wang Xian was taken aback and so was Guan Shuqing. He had not expected Guan Shuqing's father to be so shameless. "Father, what are you calling him?" Guan Shuqing's face had turned red while speaking to her father. He. Guan Shuqing continued smiling and said to Wang Xian once again, "I was foolish and timid previously. Please don't take it to heart." Wang Xian was speechless while looking at Guan Shuqing. The current him was completely different as compared to when he first saw Wang Xian. What an opportunistic person. Wang Xian wasn't too calculative with him, as he was Guan Shuqing's father after all. However, he wasn't being too close and friendly with him either. He shook his head, smiled and replied, "It's all right. As long as you are fine with it. Have a chat with Shuqing first while I get some food together with her mother. Come over to our house for dinner when you're free. I'll get my wife to make you some delicious food." Guan Shuqing could feel that Wang Xian was keeping a distance from him. However, he was rather thick-skinned and spoke solicitously. Wang Xian nodded his head. "Sure, uncle." "Great." Guan Shuqing heaved a huge sigh of relief. He turned around and walked towards a woman by the side. "Xiao Xian, my father is a little. I hope you don't mind," Guan Shuqing said as she looked at her father. "It's fine." Wang Xian smiled and shook his head. After which he turned to Guan Shuqing and said, "This is Lan Qingyue. Shuqing, I believe you know her too." "Hello." Lan Qingyue looked at Guan Shuqing, smiled, extended her hand and greeted. "Hello." Guan Shuqing also looked at Lan Qingyue and extended her hand. A special force field was formed between the two of them. When the young men in the banquet hall looked over and saw these two gorgeous ladies, they couldn't help but feel slightly shocked. At the same time, they were envious of the teenagers standing beside them. "You girls are really charming." Feeling the surrounding gazes, Wang Xian smiled and complimented them. "Junior Shuqing is really beautiful and has attracted everyone's attention." Lan Qingyue smiled and commented. "It's senior's charisma that is stronger. I'm still a long way behind." Guan Shuqing replied immediately. The atmosphere was slightly strange. "Haha, both of you are beautiful." The insensitive Wang Xian didn't notice and simply complimented the two girls. This caused the two girls to break into laughter while looking at each other. "Wang Xian, I have to go greet some people with my uncle. Don't forget that you will be treating me to a meal," Lan Qingyue smiled and said to Wang Xian. "All right, go do what you have to." Wang Xian nodded his head. Subsequently, Wang Xian chatted with Guan Shuqing for a while before heading towards where Old Qin and Old Shui were at. Old Qin introduced him to some people in Rivertown. There were businessmen and also officials working in the government. For a guy that could make Old Qin bow down to apologize, they naturally wouldn't dare to be lax and entertaining as they were full of smiles while conversing with Wang Xian. Through this banquet, Wang Xian obtained a lot of name cards. When he walked out of the banquet hall, it was already 11 o'clock at night. After bidding goodbye to Old Qin, Old Shui, Lan Qingyue, Guan Shuqing and her parents, Wang Xian rode his heavy-duty motorcycle towards school. As the cold wind blew on him, Wang Xian was feeling very comfortable. After today he could be considered as having a strong foothold in Rivertown. What would come next was to strengthen himself. The moon was bright and Wang Xian was heading back to school on his heavy-duty motorcycle. The trees along the pathways were moving past him rapidly. There were barely any other people or cars left on the roads. Just as Wang Xian was coming to a curve, a black shadow crashed towards him. Screech. Wang Xian was slightly shocked and immediately slammed on his brakes. Sharp grinding noises propagated as the motorcycle's wheels scratched against the road. Chapter 63, The Five-Element Stone Plate. Chapter 63, The Five-Element Stone Plate. Bam. An old man who was soaked in blood fell on the road in front of him. Cough. The old man looked up. With a pale-looking face, He looked towards the trees and bushes at the roadside with a despairing expression. Amo Qinglong, you can't run away. Hand over the thing now, and I'll let you have a peaceful death. Soon after, an angry bellow was heard. Wang Xian saw 8 men rushing towards his side. They were like the martial arts experts on the television who leaped onto the tree branch and landed on the road in front of him. The 8 of them were dressed uniformly in black costumes. The swords in their hands were flickering with cold radiance under the moonlight. A middle-aged man in the center stepped forward and glared coldly at the elder on the ground. Green Lotus Ancient Sect, the so-called decent sect, stooped to using despicable and shameless resorts just to steal the treasure from the ancient fiend clan. The old man stood up slowly with hideous expressions on his face. Haha, the ancient fiend clan has always been up to no good. We are going to uproot your clan and finish off all the assassins that the clan has cultivated. We're doing this for the good of the people. Amo Qinglong, don't ever think of escaping today. Hand over the 5-element stone plate now. The middle-aged man in the center was glaring at the old man with immense killing intent. He stared at the chest area of the old man with greed in his eyes. Unless you kill me, you bunch of hypocrites will never ever get it. The old man was covered in blood with numerous cuts on his body. His clothes were getting soaked in his fresh blood. Then we'll kill you. The middle-aged man in the center had an impassive look. He looked towards both sides and commanded, kill him. We must get the 5-element stone plate. Kill? The rest of the 7 members nodded and launched swift attacks at the old man. One of them suddenly looked up and fixed his gaze on the spot where Wang Xian was. Count yourself unlucky today. As he spoke, he flung his arm and hurled a dagger at Wang Xian. Without looking at him, the man turned to attack the old man. In his opinion, Wang Xian could be considered a dead man. It was an unexpected misfortune to any commoners. Wang Xian was about to take his leave when he saw what happened. But his eyes could not help but narrow when he saw the dagger flying towards him. How tyrannical of them. I'm just a passerby. Wang Xian squinted his eyes as he looked at the incoming dagger. He stretched his arm out. Piak. The dagger was easily grasped by Wang Xian. Back in the fight, the old man was besieged by 8 people and soon he took another 2 slashes on his body. The old man's strength should be around level 8, and only the middle-aged leader is on par with him. The remaining martial artists are all at level 7. Radiance flickered in Wang Xian's eyes. He got down from his Harley motorcycle slowly and gazed at the 8 people with a cold look. If it were not for you who wanting to kill me, I would have never interfered in this. But now it's a good chance for me to test my skill. Wang Xian curled his fingers into a fist. He was wearing his helmet, but he was not afraid that someone would recognize him. Ka ka ka. The dagger in his hand was crunched into a ball and discarded on the floor. I'm just a passerby, yet you guys wanted to silence me. Fine. If that's the case, let's have some fun. Wang Xian moved as he talked. He sprang into action and attacked the closest middle-aged man. Courting your own death. Qingwen and Qinglai, kill him. The middle-aged leader was looking cold as he commanded loudly after Wang Xian dodged the dagger and attacked them. Lad, never did I expect that you're a martial artist too. However, you are bound to die today. The 2 middle-aged men, Qingwen and Qinglai, took themselves out from the joint attack of the old man and looked towards Wang Xian. Immediately they made a counterattack. Ha. There was only coldness in Wang Xian's eyes. Even though he had a good temper, his killing intent was triggered when he met a bunch of people who wanted to kill him without any reason. The 2 middle-aged men wielded their sharp and long swords at his chest and throat. Have a taste of my physical power. The dragon energy in Wang Xian's body surged. He stretched out both his hands and grabbed the 2 sharp swords. Die. The 2 men looked at him disdainfully as they spun the long swords in their hands. Go to hell. Piak piak. However, what shocked them was both swords were caught and their attacks were stopped. Ka ka ka. Oh no. Their eyes were filled with disbelief as they noticed the long swords in their hands were giving way. Die. Wang Xian hurled himself forward and attacked one of the middle-aged men. He had not learned any martial arts before and had little experience in real-life combat. However, the power and speed of the divine dragon were insurmountable. He held his fist tightly. With his mighty strength, he swung his fist at the middle-aged man who was looking shocked and horrified. He wielded his sword across his chest for defense. Ka. The sword broke when the sound was heard. The domineering force struck onto the chest of the middle-aged man. Bam. The middle-aged man felt as though his chest had exploded. His eyes were protruding out as he stared at Wang Xian with disbelief. Damn, we met an expert. The other man who witnessed the instant death of Qinglai was horrified. Hence he quickly called out. Didn't you guys say you were going to kill me? Wang Xian lifted his head and stared ferociously at that middle-aged man. Like a raging beast, he struck an attack with brutal force. Green Lotus Sword Dance. That middle-aged man was horrified to see Wang Xian charging at him like a raging beast. He wielded the long sword in his hand, and an image of a green lotus appeared before him. The green lotus was carrying a bone-chilling cold radiance with it. Fancy but impractical. Despite seeing the green lotus sword formation, Wang Xian did not have the slightest hesitation. He continued punching his fist out. Ka ka ka. When the sleeves on Wang Xian's arm were torn, it sounded like shattering glasses. Blood traces could be seen on his arm, but they recovered almost instantly because of the mighty divine dragon's body. No! When the middle-aged man let out a devastating scream, Wang Xian's fist already landed on his chest. Immediately his chest sank in and he collapsed on the floor. Damn, Qingwen and Qinglai got killed. The devastating screams from Qingwen and Qinglai drew shocking exclamations of those middle-aged men who were attacking the old man as they watched in disbelief. Initially they thought they killed an ordinary passerby just to conceal the secret. But no one expected that he was a formidable martial artist who killed 2 level 7 martial artists instantly. Level 7 martial artists were experts who could establish an ancient martial artist family in this world. I was only passing through this place and yet you guys wanted to kill me. Then don't blame me for it. Let's see who will win today. Wang Xian stared at the remaining 6 people. All he wanted was to fight. He wanted to find out how strong he was now. Chapter 64 Dragonians. Chapter 64 Dragonians. Haha, great. When the old man under siege saw that Wang Xian had slayed 2 members of the Green Lotus Ancient Sect, his eyes lit up and he got excited. He looked to the middle-aged leader and started laughing. Shame on the Green Lotus Ancient Sect to claim to be an orthodox sect but ambush an ordinary person in order to silence him. Yet you would have never expected him to be so strong. Ah. Brother, thank you for lending me a helping hand. If you can help me eliminate this group of sanctimonious people, I will give you what they are trying to snatch away from me. The expressions on the 6 middle-aged men's faces, who were cornering the old man, changed drastically. They had never expected themselves to encounter this situation. They had been used to being arrogant and thinking nothing of killing an ordinary man. However, they had never expected Wang Xian to be so terrifying. The middle-aged leader held the knife firmly in his hand and stared at Wang Xian with bloodthirst. This is between the Green Lotus Ancient Sect and Ancient Fiend Clan. I hope that this brother wouldn't interfere and we would reward you handsomely after everything. Kill? Wang Xian wasn't shaken at all by the words of the middle-aged leader. He had zero affection for the 6 people in front of him and charged directly towards the one who was closest to him. Kill. Even if I, Mo Qinglong, was to lose my life, I want all of you to die with me. When Mo Qinglong saw Wang Xian make his move, his eyes lit up. The black aura around him started surging violently. Disregarding his injuries, he charged and attacked towards the surrounding 6 people. Shit. When the middle-aged leader saw them attacking, his face turned gloomy. You guys try to pin down Mo Qinglong while I go and take care of that brat. Yes, sect leader. The other 5 people gripped their swords tightly and set up a sword formation towards Mo Qinglong. Do you think the 5 of you are enough to trap me? Even when I'm severely injured, you guys still aren't a match for me. The dark hair of Mo Qinglong was flying freely and the dark aura around his body was surging towards the surroundings. At the other end, Wang Xian revealed a heavy look upon seeing the middle-aged man attacking towards him. He realized that the speed of the middle-aged man was slightly quicker than him. Martial Artist Level 8. I wonder if my body could withstand an attack from a Level 8 martial artist. Wang Xian had a gloomy look. With his current strength he could go against and kill Level 7 martial artists. As for Level 8 martial artists he wasn't certain. Nonetheless he wasn't fearful. Die, you damn brat. The middle-aged man moved the sword in his hand and a cold glow pierced toward Wang Xian. So fast. Wang Xian was a little shocked when he saw the sword of the middle-aged man. Adjusting his body posture, he dodged to the side. Can you dodge this? The middle-aged man looked at Wang Xian with disdain and swung his arm across. SSS. The sword cut along Wang Xian's arm and left a 3 inches long wound on it. However, the wound wasn't deep but looked severe. Indeed, a level 8 martial artist could injure me. Seeing the wound on his arm regenerating gradually, Wang Xian looked towards the middle-aged leader with alertness. You don't know anything about martial arts techniques and you dared to mess with us. The middle-aged leader knew Wang Xian didn't know any martial arts technique with just a look. He looked at him with disdain and said, "You can die now." As he finished his sentence, the sword in his hands moved in a mesmerizing manner. In the end, countless sword shadows intersected together to form a sharp sword that slashed towards Wang Xian. Poof! Wang Xian took a deep breath as he saw the sharp sword slashing towards him. If he was hit, he would definitely be severely injured. However, he felt no fear at all. Let's see how powerful the Dragon Ball is. He opened his mouth slightly and a quail-egg-sized Dragon Ball flew out of his mouth. It was burning in crimson-red flame and flew towards the middle-aged man at a horrifying speed. What is this? The middle-aged man was shocked when he saw a fireball-like object flying towards him. He immediately swung his sword and slashed directly at it. With a change in thought, the Dragon Ball made a creepy curve and avoided the sword. Instead, it landed on the arm of the middle-aged leader. Arg! A horrifying shriek pierced through the night. To the horror of the middle-aged man, the little fireball-like object had landed on his hand and was quickly disintegrating his body. In just a split second, a hole appeared on his arm. Terror overwhelmed him when he noticed that his chest area seemed to have been cooked. It was cooked under the intense heat. The middle-aged man's eyes were wide open and were filled with disbelief. He stared towards Wang Xian and his eyes were filled with despair. If you try to kill others, be ready to be killed. Wang Xian spoke slowly to the middle-aged leader. With just a thought, the Dragon Ball went through the body of the middle-aged leader. In that instant, the body of the middle-aged man was turned into dust. No. Under the high temperature, not even ashes were left behind. Controlling it with his mind, the Dragon Ball flew towards the other 2 corpses. When it went through them, nothing was left. Shit. Sect leader is killed. At this moment, a horrifying shriek propagated from the side. They had never expected their sect leader to be killed. Their gazes swept by Wang Xian and their bodies were trembling in fear. Why the hell did we mess with this expert? Haha, all of you shall die too. Mo Qinglong saw them being distracted. Instantly, the black gas around him surged more violently and swept towards the 5 of them. Shit. Arg. No. Several horrified screams filled the air. The 5 middle-aged men were defending hopelessly. However, they were all slain by the old man. Cough cough cough. Mo Qinglong spat out blood after slaying the 5 middle-aged men. He was barely holding up as his body was emitting its last stretch of vitality. He was on the verge of death. The escape and desperate counterattack a while ago had exhausted all of his life force. Thank you, brother. With all his might, he tried to maintain his posture and revealed a pitiful smile at Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at the old man and started to frown. Cough cough. Mo Qinglong coughed violently and spat out blood once again. He grabbed something from his waist slowly and said, "This is what those orthodox sects tried to snatch from us. Since they didn't get it, I shall give it to you, brother." As he finished his sentence, Mo Qinglong fell to the ground directly, as though he had expended all his strength. Wang Xian looked at the old man quietly. Suddenly he had an idea, walked to the side of Mo Qinglong and carried him up. As the Dragon Ball swept through the battling scene, the surrounding corpses vanished into the thin air. Looking at the baggage in the old man's hand, Wang Xian carried the old man and sat onto his heavy-duty motorcycle. After which, he rode towards the seaside. At the seaside, Wang Xian carried the old man and jumped into the water directly. He didn't transform into a divine dragon and simply swam towards the sea. In less than 20 minutes, Wang Xian arrived at the deserted island where Clam Girl was at. Wang Xian threw the old man on the ground. Looking at him on the verge of death, Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. As a divine dragon, not only do I need to have marine subordinates for my dragon palace, but I also need to have my own force in the mortal realm. Regardless of whether it is in the seas or on land, I want my name to send fear throughout. Wang Xian stared fervently at the old man. He was thinking of building a force in the mortal realm. This old man shall be the first human general, Dragon Ian. Chapter 65, Evolution, 5 Elements Divine Dragon, 1. Chapter 65, Evolution, 5 Elements Divine Dragon, 1. Dragonians were also known as the Dragon Servants. Dragonians represented the power of the divine dragon in the human world. The purity in Dragonians' bloodline would determine the limitation of their strength and capability. It was rare for divine dragons to develop into Dragonians except for those dragons with low purity bloodlines or the offspring of divine dragons and humans. Dragonians were powerful. Those that attained great achievements in their cultivation could even transform from humans into dragons. Of course, it was an arduous thing to do so. The development of Dragonians and marine animals was somewhat similar. The only difference was the speed of their cultivations. Not only did the Dragonians cultivate slower than the marine animals, but they also had to cultivate according to their own physique conditions. That is, they had to work step by cultivating their 8 extraordinary meridians first. However, this was not required from the divine dragons. Divine dragons just needed to absorb dragon energy to evolve and strengthen their physical bodies. That is to say, the human cultivation technique was invalid for Wuxia. Gazing at the old man who was at the verge of his death, Wuxia stretched out his hand. The golden drop of blood which appeared in his palm dripped on his glabella. Suddenly, the head of the old man jerked. "If you wish to live, absorb it and don't resist it," Wuxia said to the old man upon seeing his resistance. The old man calmed down, and the blood of the divine dragon entered his brain. An agreement was formed, and the old man had to serve Wuxia as his master from now on. "Let's heal him first." On seeing the completion of the contract, Wuxia smiled and placed his palm against the chest of the old man. Streams of immense dragon energy entered his body. The old man was obviously stretching himself way too far as all his internal organs were barely functioning. Hence, his body quickly absorbed the nourishment of dragon energy. At the same time, the golden dragon blood flowed through his entire body, making him in possession of the bloodline of divine dragon. Both the dragon blood and dragon energy caused the old man to develop tiny dragon scales on his body, which made him look formidable. After becoming a Dragonian, his defense ability and vitality would increase by 2 to 3 folds. A strong Dragonian could upgrade his arms into dragon claws, and bring out his own dragon tail for combat purposes. Wuxia thought to himself. As he felt the internal energy circulating in the old man's body, he suddenly had an idea. For humans to make a breakthrough in their 8 extraordinary meridians, they had to work step by step before they could advance. What if Wuxia uses his own dragon energy to help him with it? Would that speed up the cultivation? Without the slightest hindrance. Wuxia pondered. He hesitated, but he tried to direct his dragon energy to the old man's 8 extraordinary meridians. Currently, only his conception vessel and governing vessel were blocked. Once they were unblocked, he would become the inborn expert. An inborn expert was good enough to lead a force. Wuxia sensed where his 2 vessels were and tried to unblock with streams of dragon energy. Bobo. A subtle sound came from the old man's body while his internal energy was circulating frantically within him. It works. Sharp radiance flashed in his eyes. After depleting over 100 points of dragon energy, he really unblocked his conception vessel and governing vessel. If I could unblock someone's meridian, that means I can build a powerful army in the shortest possible time. Wuxia was excited. Just then, the old man who was lying on the floor suddenly sat up. His expression changed drastically, and his eyes were wide open when he learned something new. He raised his head slowly and looked at Wuxia, who was beside him as his body trembled. "Dragon King." He bowed. "Thank you, Dragon King, for bestowing a new life to me. I'll lay down my life and fight for you." Mo Qinglong was shocked, excited, and full of disbelief. According to the information in his mind, he had become an immortal Dragonian. All this was given to him by the legendary Dragon King before him. "You may rise." Wuxia was pleased with the respectful Mo Qinglong. "Yes, Dragon King." Mo Qinglong stood up and stayed by the side respectfully. "You're my first Dragonian subordinate. In the future you'll also become the leader of the powerful Dragonian army. Now you'll need to find a batch of loyal subjects so that I can upgrade them to Dragonians," said Wuxia to Mo Qinglong. "Yes, Dragon King. Leave this to me." Mo Qinglong hastily answered, "I was the elder of the ancient fiend clan. Our clan was in hot water after we obtained the treasure, 5-element stone plate by chance. All the disciples of the ancient Fiend clan were killed except for a bunch of assassins who hid themselves during their training and escaped the calamity. But they aren't any powerful assassins. Just ordinary people. Oh really? Sharp radiance flashed across his eyes. It doesn't matter even if they are weak. Just gather all of them first. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Qinglong nodded his head obediently. Is this the 5-element stone plate that you mentioned? What's the use of it? Wang Xian picked up the bundle on the floor and opened it. Yes. Mo Qinglong nodded his head as he stared at the bundle with fiery eyes. The 5-element stone plate is a very magical treasure. So far we have not fully grasped its functions. We only know that cultivation speed can increase by 5-fold with this around. It can also heal injuries, which makes it powerful. Oh really? Wang Xian opened up the bundle, revealing the 5-element stone plate. This? Suddenly Wang Xian's eyes were wide open as he looked at the stone plate in front of him. The stone was glimmering in 5 different pure colors, namely the gold, green, white, red, and yellow. The 5-element source stone marked the source of 5 elements. Wood fuels fire. Fire creates earth. Earth bears metal. Metal collects water. Water nourishes wood. Extractable dragon energy. Energy is too high to be extracted. The 5-element source stone. It's the 5-element source stone. Wang Xian's body shook with excitement. The so-called source stone was the origin source, which represented a form of limitation. For example, if Wang Xian practiced fire attributes, his body would transform into the origin of Inferno when he mastered the 9th transformation of 9 divine dragon transformations. He could easily control all the fire in the world with his mind. And the origin of Inferno was represented by the red portion on this 5-element source stone. Same goes for the water and metal attributes. According to the art of cultivation of divine dragon transformation, the divine dragon must choose an attribute when it masters the first transformation. Subsequently, it must cultivate according to its attribute. But there was a legendary attribute known as the 5 elements attribute. It was the most powerful attribute of all, as 5 elements reinforce and counteract each other. Relying solely on the cultivation arts to cultivate 5 elements attribute was not enough. It would require a treasury auxiliary, and that is the power of the origin source of attribute. At the same time, the auxiliary must possess the integration power from the inborn origin source of 5 elements attribute that almost doesn't exist in this world. Wang Xian stared at the 5-element source stone passionately. The 5 colors were connected to each other, exuding a magnificent and imposing power. I'll merge this stone with my body and proceed with the 5 elements cultivation. When I master the first transformation, I will become the legendary 5 elements divine dragon. Chapter 66, Evolution, 5 Elements Divine Dragon 2. Chapter 66, Evolution, 5 Elements Divine Dragon 2. The 5-element source stone couldn't be devoured as Wang Xian wasn't able to absorb the energy within. Carrying the 5-element source stone, Wang Xian jumped into the water directly. Roar. A dragon roar propagated through the seas. Wang Xian sat on the seabed and scratched the 5-element source stone with his dragon claws. Evolution, 5 elements divine dragon. Wang Xian shouted softly. The 5-element source stone was emitting 5 different colored lights as it entered Wang Xian's body gradually. In that instant, his body glowed in 5 different colors and his body was no longer just gold in color. Evolution, 5 elements divine dragon. A voice exploded in Wang Xian's mind and his dragon's body started cracking. His body was growing at a rapid pace from 3 meters to 5 meters. Moreover, the color of its body was also undergoing major changes. His head was blue, the color of the water. His pair of claws and dragon horns were golden in color. His body was a dull shade of yellow with a tinge of green. As for his tail, it was red. His entire body reflected the colors of the 5 elements: metal, water, wood, fire, and ground. Wang Xian felt that his dragon claws seemed to have been completely turned into metal and were capable of splitting metal and shattering stones. His head could control the flow of water and his body had a thick defense with strong regeneration capability. As for his tail, it was filled with violent power. There were 5 different types of colors connected to one another, complementing and restricting each element. Roar. Wang Xian couldn't help but let out a dragon's roar which resounded in a radius of several dozens of miles. All the marine animals within this range were all looking towards his direction in horror. Some of them were even trembling in fear while lying flat on the seabed as though they were paying respect to Wang Xian. So strong. I'm so strong now. Wang Xian could feel the destructive strength that filled his body. Looking across, he could see all the living animals in a radius of 1 kilometer and all the marine animals within several kilometers. With just a thought, he could control them. Absolutely horrifying. Name Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, 6. Dragon energy, 564 421/100 000 Superpower. Dominate the marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of living for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of cultivation, divine dragon transformation. My level increased 3 times to level 6 and I got a new superpower. Wang Xian's eyes lit up as he felt his unprecedented strength. With a body of 5 meters, he was considered rather large in the seas. Moreover, with his current strength, he could easily kill any types of sharks. In fact, he could even kill a school of tiger whales. 5 elements control. With a thought, he opened up his dragon claw and a sharp metal longsword appeared in his hand. When he opened his mouth slightly, a ball of water appeared from within. When he swayed his tail slightly, the scorching temperature that was emitting from the tail could reach the might of the dragon ball. I'm so strong now. Even if I encounter an inborn expert, he wouldn't be a match for me. Wang Xian was filled with confidence. From here onwards, he would also be an existence that could rule over an area. Dragon King. At this moment, Clam Girl, who had been around, swam over. She opened her shell and revealed her human form. Haha, I'm in a really good mood today. Here is some dragon energy for you. Wang Xian looked at Clam Girl and revealed a smile. With a wave of his golden claws, a stream of dragon energy entered Clam Girl's body. Thank you, Dragon King. The Clam Girl shivered and absorbed the dragon energy rapidly. Her form was getting closer and closer to a human and the shell behind her was emitting a blinding glow. At the same time, her level had increased to level 7. Roving Girl, did you catch any top-quality seafood over the last few days? Wang Xian asked Roving Girl. Dragon King, I found some abalones as you described near this island. Moving her body, she controlled the water flow and pointed to a direction. Abalone? Wang Xian revealed a shocked expression. Bring me over to take a look. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Girl nodded her head. As she moved her body, she went ahead and led the way. Wang Xian moved his tail slightly. His current speed was horrifying in the seas currently and few marine animals could match his speed. A 5 meters long 5 elements divine dragon was starting to have its majestic look. Under the island was a patch of chaotic rocks. Clam Girl led him towards the opposite direction where Wang Xian came from. In that direction, green seaweeds were all over the surface of the rocks. Dragon King, look. The abalones that you've described. Clam Girl pointed to an abalone in the cracks between a rock. She controlled the flow of water and swept the abalone towards her directly. This is two-headed abalone. When Wang Xian saw the abalones in front of him, his eyes lit up and revealed a shocked expression. An abalone is considered a two-headed abalone, when just 2 of them weighs a catty. Two-headed abalone was a very rare and precious animal. A single two-headed abalone would fetch at least $400,000 to $500,000. Even so, one might not even get one with money. This was something that an ordinary rich person could eat. Wang Xian looked to Clam Girl with joy and asked, Are there more of these abalone? Yes. Clam Girl nodded her head and swam to the side. Controlling the water flow, she swept an even larger abalone over. This? Wang Xian was speechless when he saw this abalone. It was at least the size of 2 palms, had a heavy and thick shell and dull yellow flesh. One-headed abalone. Oh my gosh, this is a one-headed abalone that is worth several million for one. Wang Xian was exhilarated. He opened up his claws and held it with his own hand. Abalone. This was the highest quality ingredient available. Just this abalone alone would be more than $2 million. Moreover, it would at most be enough for 2 people. $2 million for a meal? Who could have afforded it? Roving Girl, get me all the abalone in the surrounding area, Wang Xian ordered loudly. Roving Girl nodded her head. Moving her body, she started to catch the abalones within the cracks of the rocks. Soon, 20 to 30 abalones appeared within the area she was controlling, among which there were several one-headed abalones and two-headed abalones that were similar to those in Wang Xian's hand. There was one one-headed abalone and four two-headed abalone. As for the rest, they were either three-headed abalones or four-headed abalones. Dragon King, this is a portion of the abalones. In less than 10 minutes, abalones were densely packed around Roving Girl. There were approximately 100 of them. Great, that's enough. Wang Xian was overwhelmed. Among the abalones in front of him, there were approximately 5 one-headed abalones, 15 two-headed abalones, and the rest were three-headed abalones or four-headed abalones. If I placed these in the restaurants, it would definitely cause a commotion. These are one-headed abalones and two-headed abalones that are close to impossible to find within the country. Wang Xian recalled a piece of news that he had seen. Someone dried a two-headed abalone and preserved it under perfect conditions, after which he used it as a family heirloom. From this, one could see the value of a two-headed abalone, let alone a one-headed abalone. Lobsters and abalones. If I could get some Chinese bahaba fish and Atlantic bluefin marlin, it would be perfect. At that time, no restaurants would be able to match the top-quality ingredients of first-grade restaurant. Chapter 67, Established Dragon Sect. Chapter 67, Established Dragon Sect. In the ocean, Wang Xian swayed his enormous body and swam out hundreds of meters away in a single move. He headed towards the spot where the roving lobster was at. Roar. A dragon roar was heard in the area filled with messy reefs. All the marine animals in the region were shuddering. Soon, roving lobster with a pair of 2 meters claws, swam quickly and lowered himself. My respect to the Dragon King. Wang Xian looked at the level 4 roving lobster and drew his lips. I'm here to enhance your strength for your cultivation. Thank you, Dragon King. The low-intelligence roving lobster said gratefully. Wang Xian swung his arm and instilled a stream of dragon energy into the body of roving lobster. Ka. The roving lobster gave off frying sound from his body. His body did not grow any bigger, but all his legs, including his claws, grew muscular. His pair of large claws as sharp as razors were about 1.5 meters long. His legs were about the same size as the human ones. Slowly the roving lobster stood up. With a height of 2 meters, 2 out of 8 legs were supporting his body. The rest of them looked extremely strong and durable. The 2 claws located on his head were exuding mightiness. This was the authentic roving lobster general. The roving lobster upgraded to level 6 after Wang Xian transferred 100,000 points of dragon energy. Compared to a martial artist, a level 7 martial artist was no match for a level 6 roving lobster. Guard this land of lobsters. That would be sufficient. Sharp radiance flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. Thank you, Dragon King. The roving lobster knelt again and said with gratefulness. Carry on with your cultivation. After leaving his instruction, he made a move and headed towards the island where Mo Qinglong was residing. When Wang Xian swam out of the water, Mo Qinglong immediately walked over humbly. Dragon King. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and asked, when will your subordinates be arriving? Dragon King, they will be here in no time. Mo Qinglong answered with respect. In no time? Wang Xian looked at Mo Qinglong with astonishment. So fast. Dragon King, they were receiving military training. I called them just now and they were not far away from the river town. Now they are on their way. I believe they will be here soon. Mo Qinglong replied. Oh. Wang Xian nodded his head with sharp radiance in his eyes. He looked at the shore where a ship was sailing towards them. Are they here? Mo Qinglong looked over and nodded his head. Yes, it should be them. Where did their ship come from? Asked Wang Xian curiously. Dragon King, as an elite assassin, getting a ship is a piece of cake, Mo Qinglong replied. Great. Wang Xian displayed a satisfied look while he waited quietly for the ship to arrive. Gather here. When the ship docked, Mo Qinglong called out. Master. A surprising voice was heard. Soon after, a middle-aged man, along with a team of young men, ran towards him. Come here. Mo Qinglong said in a low voice. Yes. A group of people crowded around. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the people and noticed 50 fit and muscular young men. They were standing there uniformly without making the slightest sound. A chilling killing aura exuded from them. This bunch of people was not strong because they were from a sub-branch of the ancient Fiend clan, and none of them had learned ancient martial arts. Besides, at their age, their meridians would have stiffened up. It would be extremely difficult to do any cultivation. Only the middle-aged leader was a level 6 martial artist. This is the Dragon King, and he will be your king from now on too, Emo Qinglong told the 50 people. The middle-aged man leading the team revealed a shocking expression as he looked at his master. I'll take you to another world. Wang Xian walked to the center slowly as the dragon power gradually encompassed everyone. Boom. After the encompassing of the dragon power, the entire world seemed to have undergone a drastic change. Infinite oppression was suppressing them. Dragon King. This group of well-trained assassins was horrified. They, including the middle-aged man in the lead, quickly knelt down on the ground. All of you shall not resist. Wang Xian swung his palm and 50 drops of dragon blood emerged in his hands. He flung his arm and sent the blood to each of their glabellas. Everyone was horrified and dared not resist when they saw the skills he displayed. Next, I'll unblock your 8 extraordinary meridians. During this period, you'll focus on your cultivation. In the shortest possible time, cultivate yourself to the inborn realm and become invincible masters. Wang Xian swung his arm and injected a large amount of dragon energy into their bodies. He closed his eyes and unblocked all the meridians. Unblocking their meridians would not make them inborn experts immediately. They would still require absorbing spiritual energy. However, their absorption speed would increase by 100 times after unblocking their meridians. Roar. After all the meridians were unblocked, they let out a soft dragon roar. All their clothes were torn into pieces by the domineering force. Faint dragon scales were attached to their bodies. Thank you, Dragon King. After everyone absorbed the dragon blood, they clutched their fists tightly with excitement on their faces. They knelt and their voices echoed through the sky. From now on, you'll be the security of the Dragon Palace, and will be known as the Dragon Sect from the Dragon Palace. The entire Dragon Sect would be led by Emo Qinglong, Wang Xian ordered them. Yes, Dragon King. Emo Qinglong knelt down before him thrillingly. Find a base camp for everyone to cultivate. Wang Xian nodded and said slowly. Dragon King, why don't we make this place the base camp of the Dragon Sect? Emo Qinglong suggested while standing up. Here? Wang Xian observed the surrounding. The entire island had a size of 3,000 meters. The surface area was enough, but the island was too bleak. It would take a lot of money to transform this place into the Dragon Sect. Wang Xian slightly frowned. Dragon King, we have some funds here. Just enough for us to establish our base camp. Emo Qinglong was exhilarated. Besides, my strength will reach the inborn realm soon. Till then, we can apply for this island to be the base camp for the Dragon Sect. Great. Wang Xian's eyes glimmered with sharp radiance. I'll leave the Dragon Sect to you. I hope everyone can become inborn experts in no time. Everyone will become an inborn expert within 100 days. Emo Qinglong guaranteed, since we've got your bloodline, we can even strive for a more powerful level too. From now on, I, Emo Qinglong from the Dragon Sect, will clear all the obstacles in your way. Everyone will worship the Dragon Sect. We will make Dragon Sect well known in the world and clear all obstacles for the Dragon King. Everyone will worship the Dragon Sect. The rest of the Dragonians at the back roared with passionate eyes. Wang Xian swept his gaze across all the people. He bellowed to the sky, roar. The roar symbolized my arrival, the arrival of the 5 elements divine dragon, Wang Xian. I'll definitely soar to the highest point in the world. Chapter 68, A Dragon or a Worm. Chapter 68, A Dragon or a Worm. Early in the morning, a figure flew out of the seas. That's right, it flew out like a deity. Naturally, the word flew might be exaggerating. Nonetheless, Wang Xian was able to jump over 10 meters in a single leap. Since his level had increased to level 6, his body had integrated the 5-element source stone and had 5 elemental attributes of metal, wood, water, fire and earth in his body. Wang Xian's strength was 100 times stronger. With a flick of his finger, a spark appeared within his hand. Moving it again, it was a metal dagger this time. Subsequently, there was a fireball, a block of earth and a piece of wood. However, what Wang Xian found the most interesting was that he could grow beautiful flowers on his palm with just a thought. This was the strength of the 5 elements and showed why the 5 elements divine dragon was the most horrifying. Wang Xian retracted his aura with a face of smiles and walked to his heavy-duty motorcycle. He rode it and headed towards first-grade restaurant. When he reached first-grade restaurant, it was already 9:30 a.m. and Guan Shuqing had arrived. "Xiao Xian, have you eaten?" Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian with loving eyes and asked sweetly. Despite being upset by her father's actions during the banquet, she felt fortunate to have Wang Xian with her all along. Currently, her family would likely rise again with the Qin family providing assistance. Moreover, her family would grow to be even stronger than before. Her parents were exhilarated and wanted her to grab hold of the opportunity to become Wang Xian's girlfriend. Although this made her speechless, she was secretly happy about it as her parents were no longer against her being together with Wang Xian. "I haven't. Have you eaten? Want to head out to grab some food?" Wang Xian smiled and asked. "I have already eaten. You could go by yourself." Guan Shuqing looked at him and smiled. Wang Xian nodded his head and headed out. The traffic on the old street was huge. Even though it was a morning in the summer, there were still quite a number of pedestrians in the surrounding area. Wang Xian looked around before heading towards a breakfast shop. "Longshan restaurant will be opening in 5 days. Sir, please come and take a look." At this moment, a girl walked to him with a flyer and handed it to him. "Longshan restaurant." He took the flyer from the girl's hand inquisitively and took a look. "Longshan restaurant will be opening in 5 days. On the day of the opening, everything will be sold at 50% of the original price. Subsequently, it will be 60% on the second day, 70% on the third day, 80% on the fourth day and 90% on the fifth day. Longshan restaurant mainly sells all kinds of seafood and definitely has more variety than first-grade restaurant. We have all kinds of valuable and precious seafood. At that time, we will be selling 2-headed abalone, Atlantic bluefin marlin sashimi, delicious caviar and Australian lobsters. We welcome all guests to visit and taste our exquisite and delicious seafood. We would also be giving out attractive prizes." Wang Xian looked at the advertisement flyer in his hand before lifting his head to look at Longshan restaurant, which was just a short distance away. At this moment, the renovation of Longshan restaurant was complete. Looking at its exterior, it wasn't inferior to first-grade restaurant at all. In fact, it looked a little more luxurious as it was a newly renovated restaurant after all. Everything at half price on opening day 5 days later? Claiming to have a wider variety of seafood than first-grade restaurant. Wang Xian's eyes flickered and a faint cold smirk appeared on his face. Isn't this our director Wang? What's the matter? Coming to learn more about your competitor?" At this moment, a teasing voice sounded from beside him. He turned his head over and saw a young man followed by 3 other guys. The lips of the young man curved into a smile when he saw Wang Xian holding onto the advertisement flyer. Wang Xian looked at the young man and gave a cold smirk. "I don't have to resort to finding more about your restaurant. My first-grade restaurant has never been afraid of anyone." "Ah, great. Director Wang is really confident." The young man looked at Wang Xian and smiled. His expression turned heavy as he continued, "However, I wonder if Director Wang could stay as composed when his restaurant goes bankrupt." "Bankrupt? That's interesting. Let us wait and see who will be the first to declare bankruptcy." Wang Xian smiled and looked at them. "Let's wait and see then. At that time I'll let you know the strength of our Longshan restaurant." The young man gave a cold smile. "If you go bankrupt, I'll buy it from you for cheap." "Arrogant." Wang Xian looked at the young man and said in an emotionless tone. "Lad, you are still lacking a lot in comparison with my brother. As to what you are capable of, we have already investigated thoroughly. This time we would hand you a complete defeat." At this moment, the teenager beside the young man lifted his head and spoke to Wang Xian in a condescending manner. "My capabilities? It seems like you guys have been investigating me?" Wang Xian's face sank. "Know your enemy and you will not be defeated in 100 battles. You are just a lucky brat. After this experience, you will be left with nothing," the young man said coldly. "Sure," Wang Xian sneered. "In that case, I'd like to see who will be the one who is left with nothing." "TSK." The young man sneered and headed out. "Brother, this time we will teach this brat a good lesson and let him know the consequences of going against our Longshan restaurant," the teenager said to the young man. In 5 days' time he will be crying over this. Our Longshan restaurant's branch in this city is coming to this town like a hurricane and will triumph over the local first-grade restaurant regardless of how strong it might be. Furthermore, he is just a worm after all. The young man revealed a confident look. If he wasn't capable, he wouldn't have come to the area to set up his restaurant. In his eyes, the first-grade restaurant was just a worm. Haha, that's right, big brother. In 5 days' time, we will know who's the dragon and who's the worm. The teenager laughed excitedly. Longshan Restaurant. Wang Xian looked at them as they left before looking at Longshan Restaurant once again. He smirked coldly and mumbled, "You guys dare to claim to be Longshan Restaurant? Claiming to be a dragon? In 5 days' time?" Wang Xian smiled and threw the advertisement into the rubbish bin. Director Wang. When he returned to first-grade restaurant after finishing his breakfast, Manager Huang walked to him, looking flustered. In his hand was an advertisement flyer. "What's the matter?" Wang Xian saw his flustered look and asked. Director Wang, Longshan Restaurant has just started a strong and massive advertisement campaign by giving out flyers and employing the media at the same time. Their reach is really wide. Manager Huang replied in a hurry and passed the flyer to Wang Xian. "This was a flyer that I received from them. I knew about this." Wang Xian smiled and shook his head upon seeing the flyer. "Director Wang, you knew about this?" Manager Huang was a little shocked but quickly added, "Director Wang, we need to get prepared. Longshan Restaurant is a famous restaurant in the nearby city and they have strong capabilities. Moreover, their boss is a distant sea fishing group and has supplies with a range of top-quality ingredients. Please take a look at the menu that they are advertising." "Relax. I have thought of how to handle this. As for now, the operations of first-grade restaurant shall remain the same as before. It's just a Longshan Restaurant. I'll make them close their shop quickly," Wang Xian said plainly. "Director Wang, you are confident?" Manager Huang asked again, feeling a little doubtful. "Just go and do what you have to do." Wang Xian looked at him and smiled mysteriously. He had not brought over the large lobsters from the chaotic reef areas and the abalones from under the island. This was because the time wasn't right yet. There were 5 more days and this was ample time for him to make some preparations. Chapter 69, First Grade Restaurant vs. Longshan Restaurant, 1. Chapter 69, First Grade Restaurant vs. Longshan Restaurant, 1. Days passed by, and soon it was only 10 days left before the school reopened. And 1 day before the Longshan Restaurant opened for business. "Director Wang, the things you wanted are ready." When Manager Huang saw the arrival of Wang Xian early in the morning, he was worried sick. He could not help but ask, "Director Wang, almost everyone in the river town knows that the Longshan Restaurant will be opening soon. Given the market responses, many people will turn up in their restaurant on the first day. How should we deal with this?" "It's okay. Make sure the things are ready." Wang Xian did not answer his question directly as he looked at the entrance with a smiling face. These few days, Wang Xian got Manager Huang to prepare a few showcase boxes like those that could be seen in the market. However, the showcase boxes that came with frozen storage were much more high-class and exquisite. The 4 showcase boxes were located on both sides of the entrance while a huge aquarium was situated in the center. However, there was no ornamental fish in the aquarium. "It's done. Director Wang. Look at all the imported equipment. They neither obstruct the visual nor the passageway," said Manager Huang, frowning. "Shuqing, have you printed out all our promotions?" Wang Xian asked with a smile. "Yes, they are done. We can start our promotions anytime," said Guan Shuqing with a grin. "Great, I'll get the people to move in the stuff in the afternoon." Wang Xian nodded. "Xiao Xian, are you confident in winning against the Longshan Restaurant?" Guan Shuqing asked with some concerns. "No problem." Wang Xian nodded. Seeing Wang Xian acting so secretively, both Guan Shuqing and Manager Huang did not ask anything further. All they did was wait quietly. Longshan Restaurant in the distance had already hung up huge red lanterns with fabulous decorations at the entrance. Just on advertising and promotions alone, Longshan Restaurant had spent millions in 5 days. With such a substantial investment in marketing, the results were visible. Some passers-by even made inquiries in the daytime today. At 3 in the afternoon, an old man together with 6 young men walked in. The old man was burly while the rest of the young men exuded fearsome auras. They were carrying things in their hands. Our operating hours start at 5 p.m. All of you are here. Move the things over here. Wang Xian intercepted the receptionist when he saw Mo Qinglong and the Dragonians. Wang. When Mo Qinglong saw Wang Xian, he quickly walked over and addressed him respectfully. Wang Xian requested him to address him in this way. After all, addressing him as Dragon King was way too high profile. And Wang, aka the King, seemed like a shorter nickname. Wang Xian. Bring the things over. Wang Xian stood up and said. Guan Shuqing, manager Huang and the rest of the chefs did not rest. They all stood up and checked out curiously. We're ready? Mo Qinglong waved to the rest of the 6 young men behind him. Put it in that showcase box, said Wang Xian to them. Yes, Wang, the rest of the young men nodded. 2 of the young men moved over a huge foam box with ice in it. They opened the box, revealing a fish in it. The body size of the fish was about 3 meters long. It was beefy and sleek, flickering with silvery radiance. Atlantic bluefin marlin. It's the Atlantic bluefin marlin. Gosh. It's an Atlantic bluefin marlin of at least 400 caddies. Such a huge and beautiful Atlantic bluefin marlin. This one is worth at least 3 million and above. The group of chefs standing around could not help but exclaim as they quickly surrounded the box in astonishment. This was the best fish in the world, Atlantic bluefin marlin. Yet, another box opposite them was already opened while they exclaimed. It was a yellowish of 1 meter, weighing around 100 caddies. Chinese bahaba fish. It's the Chinese bahaba fish. The fish gelatin is just beside the Chinese bahaba fish. That's just huge. Gosh, there's another Chinese bahaba fish. When the Chinese bahaba fish was out, another round of commotion broke out from the surrounding chefs. Chinese bahaba fish. It's the Chinese bahaba fish. Director Wang. Boss, you're awesome. An Atlantic bluefin marlin and a Chinese bahaba fish. Gosh. Manager Huang exclaimed dumbfoundedly. With these 2 top-graded fish, would the first-grade restaurant be afraid of the Longshan restaurant? They did not seem to exist. Guan Shuqing parted her lips slightly in astonishment as she looked at the expensive fish. She had not even have a chance to eat such expensive fish before. What a huge abalone. Gosh, the abalones are huge. Just as everyone was staring at the Atlantic bluefin marlin and the Chinese bahaba fish, the abalones were unloaded one by one. Among which, a few of the palm-sized abalones drew surprising cries from the chef. The chef pointed unbelievably at those abalones that were taken out from the box with eyes agape. This one-headed abalone. One-headed abalone. Gosh, this is incredible. Too incredible. When Wang Xian saw their reactions, he smiled. Put the ornamental fish into the fish tank. Yes, Wang. A young Dragonian nodded, opened the foam box and stored the arowanas in it. There was a total of 9 arowanas, and each of them was about 80 centimeters long. Precious chili red arowanas, noble Asian arowana, domineering silver arowana, elegant yellow arowana, and radiant blue arowana. Each of the arowana exuded a faint and imposing aura. They were the top-graded arowanas. Definitely the ultimate top-graded arowanas. Manager Huang stared unbelievably at those arowanas with eyes agape. He was not an expert in arowana, but his ex-boss borrowed several arowanas some time ago. Those arowanas were said to be worth more than 1 million each. But he was sure that those arowanas back then were far inferior to these arowanas here. The 9 arowanas were sweeping its body from left to right in the aquarium. Its domineering mightiness was fascinating. Just these arowanas would cost more than $10 millions of dollars? Manager Huang was a little stupefied. Lastly, hundreds of lobsters were taken out, relieving the group of people who were still stunned. Luckily, the last 100 lobsters were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, which were incomparable to the rest of the fish. An Atlantic bluefin marlin, Chinese bahaba fish, 2 one-headed abalones, 10 two-headed abalones. Bring out those wild giant yellow croaker which I caught some time ago and put them in the showcase. Wang Xian looked at a chef impassively. Yes, boss. I'll get it. That chef quickly rushed to the kitchen. Soon, the 10 wild giant yellow croakers were in place. The Chinese bahaba fish and Atlantic bluefin marlin were situated on both sides of the door while the abalones were put beside the Chinese bahaba fish. On the other hand, the wild giant yellow croakers were placed beside the Atlantic bluefin marlin. Finally, the ornamental arowanas that were worth over $10 million were placed at the center position. The shock on Manager Huang and the chef's faces did not subside. Anyone who just walked into the shop would form an illusion that they were in a museum which housed the world's best seafood. This was a fish castle. Chapter 70 First Grade Restaurant vs. Longshan Restaurant 2. Chapter 70 First Grade Restaurant vs. Longshan Restaurant 2. Let's have a toast to eating well, drinking well, and having a good time today. From tomorrow onwards, our Longshan Restaurant will start its operations officially and mark a new page of history for Longshan Restaurant in Rivertown. In the future, people will definitely speak of us when discussing restaurants in Rivertown. As for that first-grade restaurant, it will become history soon. That's right, Director Xia. With Director Xia's capabilities and the publicity we have done over the last few days, first-grade restaurant is nothing to us. They will just be a part of history soon. In the evening, the boss of Longshan Restaurant brought all his employees to a luxury hotel for a starting work feast. Longshan Restaurant would be opening the next day. In other words, they were having a celebratory feast today. They were celebrating the upcoming success of Longshan Restaurant and for the name of Longshan Restaurant spreading throughout Rivertown. That's certain. With the ingredients that we have prepared, it will definitely shock the entire Rivertown. I have never seen first-grade restaurant as a threat to us. Director Xie revealed an arrogant and cocky expression. First-grade restaurant hasn't been doing any publicity recently. Could it be that they are so arrogant to believe that their reputation alone is enough to compete with us? That's really naive. A plump middle-aged man that looked like the chef chuckled. First-grade restaurant naturally has to pay for its arrogance. As I have said, I'll make that brat regret. Recalling the arrogant Wang Xian, Director Xie revealed a cold look. Come, let's have a toast to the success of Longshan Restaurant. Director Xie stood up and said to the crowd around him. Cheers. Our Longshan Restaurant will definitely shoot to stardom tomorrow. Haha, shoot to stardom. Just as the people of Longshan Restaurant were having the celebratory feast, what they didn't know was that there was a commotion that broke out in first-grade restaurant. Welcome. A group of 5 people walked into the restaurant in the evening. Wow, you guys have made some changes to the entrance. A middle-aged regular patron noticed there was a new setup the moment he stepped into the restaurant. He looked at it inquisitively while asking the greeter at the side. Yes, sir. The greeter smiled. However, the changes aren't significant. It's just changing the arrangement of some of the things. The middle-aged man looked around and shook his head slightly. This won't do it. Longshan Restaurant will be opening right beside tomorrow with a 50% discount on everything. Moreover, they have a wider variety of seafood than first-grade restaurant. I heard that you have a new boss. If this isn't handled well, your business will be snatched away by Longshan Restaurant. Sir, we will also be having a 50% discount on all items tomorrow, the greeter replied with a smile. Just having discounts isn't enough. Do you know the range of seafood that they have? Longshan Restaurant will be having Atlantic bluefin marlin sashimi, precious sea cucumber and many other types of deep-sea fish. I heard that there will be an unlimited amount of Australian lobsters and king crabs. The middle-aged man shook his head as he spoke. He looked to the group of people with him and continued, let's go try the food of Longshan Restaurant tomorrow. Their publicity has been really strong recently. I have also heard about Longshan Restaurant. From their publicity, it seems that it is indeed better than first-grade restaurant and has lots of top-quality seafood. Another middle-aged man by the side smiled and commented. When the greeter heard the words of the middle-aged man, she revealed a faint smile. Sir, Longshan Restaurant is still a far cry from us. We have a new boss and it's only natural that we have made improvements. Sirs, please take a look inside. Alright, let's go and take a look. The middle-aged man nodded his head initially but smiled and shook his head soon after. But I still feel that as compared to Longshan Restaurant, you guys are a little inferior. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw the nearest display platform to him. There were 10 yellow croaker fish that weighed about 3 to 4 caddies each on the display platform. Looking at the colors and the gloss of their bodies, it was clear that they were wild yellow croaker fish. The middle-aged man was taken aback and commented in shock, "Wild giant yellow croaker. and there are 10 of them. I would never have expected you guys to be able to get your hands on 10 wild giant yellow croaker fish. Sirs, feel free to take a look. All the top-end seafood on our 4 display platform are for sale. You could choose from them and we would cook for you on the spot. A beautiful female waitress standing by the platform said to them. These 10 wild giant yellow croaker fish are really precious. Who would have thought that first-grade restaurants would be able to get 10 of these? This time he did not complete his sentence. This was because just a short distance away he saw a whole Atlantic bluefin marlin. It was a 3 meters long Atlantic bluefin marlin. His eyes stared wide open as he said, "Oh my gosh! What a move by first-grade restaurant. Just this Atlantic bluefin marlin alone would be comparable to Longshan restaurant." The waitress at the side simply smiled and didn't comment. "Old Lu, take a look at this. Oh my god. Chinese bahaba fish. It's a whole Chinese bahaba fish. This is still the first time I have seen a Chinese bahaba fish. This fish alone is worth several million. These are fish gelatin. Fish gelatin from the Chinese bahaba fish is the most precious of all fish gelatin. The gelatin alone would fetch several hundreds of thousands. Don't just look at the Chinese bahaba fish. Take a look at these. Oh my gosh. I have never seen abalones that are so large. This is just like a dream. One-headed abalone. And there are 2 of them. There are also 10 two-headed abalones. Since when are one-headed and two-headed abalones so common? Each one of these is worth over $1 million. This is crazy. 2 one-headed abalones and 10 two-headed abalones. These are worth close to $10 million. Furthermore, those are Atlantic bluefin marlin, Chinese bahaba fish and wild giant yellow croaker fish. All these together are worth close to $20 million. First-grade restaurant is too awesome. This is just like a dreamland. Wow, Mr. Welcome. At this moment, Manager Huang saw them the moment he stepped out of the office. He smiled and immediately walked over. Manager Huang, these Atlantic bluefin marlin, Chinese bahaba and abalones are for sale? The dumbfounded middle-aged man asked Manager Huang. Of course, if Mr. Lu would like to have some, feel free to choose from them. Our chefs would cook for you immediately. These are definitely the most premium food in the world. Manager Huang smiled and replied. Moreover, we will be having a grand sale tomorrow. Everything will be sold at 50% of the original price. This would naturally include what you have seen here. In other words, if one would like to have a one-headed abalone, he would just need $1, $2 million and could save half of the original cost. The 5 middle-aged men were dumbfounded. What the hell? An abalone still costs $1, $2 million after a 50% discount. Gulp. As the middle-aged man looked at the top-quality seafood around him, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Manager Huang, you guys are really having a showdown with Longshan restaurant. A showdown? Manager Huang smiled and said with indifference, Mr. Lu, what do you think of our first-grade restaurant relative to Longshan restaurant? Manager Huang, your new boss is truly awesome to be able to get these world-class top-quality ingredients. The middle-aged man smiled and continued, this isn't even a contest with Longshan restaurant anymore. You guys are simply holding them down and rubbing their faces against the floor. Too awesome. Rub rub. Chapter 71 First-grade restaurant versus Longshan restaurant, 3. Chapter 71 First-grade restaurant versus Longshan restaurant, 3. Apart from Mr. Lu and his clique that night, close to hundreds of people who turned up for dinner at first-grade restaurants saw the luxurious lineup of the seafood. Every customer who walked in was dumbfounded by the world's best seafood. What's more, these seafoods could only be found on the news. They thought the recent improvements from Longshan restaurant were already impressive, but now they simply paled in comparison. That night, Wang Xian instructed that all the promotion events of the first-grade restaurant be sent to the customers on their contact list via their phones. No other message was sent except for the 50% off. Yet, those images were shared on the social media feed among people within Rivertown that night. Crazy. Do you know what the best seafood in the world is? Australia lobster, king crab? Those are crappy. Let me tell you what the best seafood in the world is. Below the caption were some pictures with one-headed abalone, Atlantic bluefin marlin, Chinese bahaba fish. Splendid. This is the most awesome restaurant I have ever seen. The first-grade restaurant is going the hell out of the way. All one-headed abalone, Atlantic bluefin marlin, Chinese bahaba fish are now 50% off. The photos and the information were shared on the WeChat feeds, which subsequently gave rise to some online jokes. I'll marry any nouveau riches who treat me to a meal at first-grade restaurant. Bro, follow me to a feast at first-grade restaurant. I'll bring you and you'll bring the money. How much does it cost to go all-out eating at the first-grade restaurant? The price of your house. I'm sitting in the private room of first-grade restaurant while having abalone, sashimi and Chinese bahaba fish. I envy those who are having street food outside. Sigh, my life is tough. Within a short period, the godlike first-grade restaurant was plastered all over the WeChat feeds. Many people were prepared to check the restaurant out. The next morning, the entire old street was filled with a festive atmosphere as Longshan Restaurant opened their doors early in the morning. The dancing lion and dragons were performing non-stop on the road outside the Longshan Restaurant. At the entrance of Longshan Restaurant stood 10 gorgeous-looking models who were smiling all the way. Director Xie, his brother and the manager of the Longshan Restaurant were standing in front of the restaurant with smiles all over their faces. They were happy to see the crowd gathering at their door. Director Xie, it's only 9 a.m. now and what a crowd we have. There will be more people when we officially open at 9:30 a.m. I bet they will start having their food at 9:30 a.m. Haha, of course. We're having a promotion of 50% off today. It will be a pity if you are not eating the top-grade seafood at half price, said Director Xie, laughing out loud. Brother, the first-grade restaurant is not even open yet. Interesting, the juvenile next to Director Xie said with a smile. That restaurant will be closed forever, said Director Xie confidently. Director Xie, the beauty Lin Qingying is here. More people might be coming later. At this time, the manager of Longshan Restaurant saw a pretty girl with a pair of big sunglasses. An assistant was following beside her too. Oh, get her to come over now. Ask her to sing a song later and participate in the opening ceremony of Longshan Restaurant. Director Xie said while beaming. Got it. The manager nodded and went over immediately. Brother, we should hire a top star for our opening. Why would we get someone who is a B-lister? The juvenile asked Director Xie. Lin Qingying might be a B-lister, but she is a special case. She's a star who loves food and her reviews are spot on. Hence, she has a huge base of fans who are foodies. Getting her is much more appropriate than hiring other A-listers. Director Xie beamed as he spoke. You've got great foresight, brother, the juvenile smiled and replied. Xiaofeng, you're still young. There are things you need to learn. Director Xie smiled at his younger brother. Yes, brother. A simple stage was set up at the entrance of the Longshan Restaurant. Hi, Miss Lin Qingying. Director Xie greeted Lin Qingying with a face full of smiles when he saw her walking over. Hello, Director Xie. Lin Qingying smiled and nodded with slight arrogance. Director Xie did not mind at all. He knew that Lin Qingying was quite well off. She gained her popularity from being a foodie and from the 2 songs she sang. She was not the one who was short of money. Now he was the one who needed her help. Miss Lin Qingying, we'll need you to sing a song for us and introduce the Longshan Restaurant later. Is there any problem? Asked Director Xie with a smile. No problem, Director Xie. Since I promised to take on this job, I'll definitely do my best. Lin Qingying tidied her hair and nodded. She was 1.7 meters tall with a perfect figure and she looked fit. Her lips may have been thin, but they were seductive in their own way. Welcome everyone to Longshan Restaurant. Today is the opening of the Longshan Restaurant. We are officially announcing our arrival in River Town with the most top-grade seafood and the most delicious food. In this opening ceremony, we have invited the renowned foodie star, Miss Lin Qingying. Next, let's invite Miss Lin Qingying to introduce the Longshan Restaurant, which has a rich history. The host stood on the stage with a microphone as he did the introduction. The beautiful and enchanting Lin Qingying walked up to the stage with a handheld microphone and a smiling face. Hello everyone. I'm Lin Qingying. I'm very honored to be invited here for the opening ceremony of Longshan Restaurant. The Longshan Restaurant. Lin Qingying. She's pretty. Let's go over now. Lin Qingying was invited to this restaurant's opening ceremony. This restaurant is splendid. The publicity of the Longshan Restaurant these past few days was strong. I have also heard that it is a high-class seafood restaurant with lots of expensive seafood ingredients. They're quite awesome. The presence of Lin Qingying on the stage drew all the people on the street instantly. Director Xie curved his lips into a smile when he saw the crowd, which almost blocked the entire Longshan restaurant. This time, I want the entire river town or even the nation to go crazy with my restaurant opening. Director Xie held his fist tightly as he revealed a confident look. He looked at the first-grade restaurant, which had yet to open, with his lips slightly drawn. At this time, a bunch of food lovers who had nothing to do rushed over when they heard the news. The first-grade restaurant opens at 9:30. Since they are not open yet, let's check out the Longshan restaurant first. Longshan restaurant might have strong publicity, but they seem to lose out to first-grade restaurant by a lot. In any case, we can check them out since we've got nothing to do. I think there's a celebrity over there. Some customers joined the crowd at Longshan restaurant, which was not far away, when they saw the closed door at the first-grade restaurant. Chapter 72 First Grade Restaurant vs. Longshan Restaurant 4. Chapter 72 First Grade Restaurant vs. Longshan Restaurant 4. 9:20 a.m. 10 more minutes to the official opening of Longshan Restaurant. At this moment, Director Xie and Lin Qingying were standing on the platform with the restaurant manager, the chief chef and Director Xie's brother. Everyone had a bright and radiant smile on them. And now we will have the ribbon-cutting ceremony to commemorate Longshan Restaurant's opening and to wish them a bright future ahead. The ribbon-cutting ceremony is complete. Director Xie's face was wreathed with smiles as he took over the microphone and looked at the densely packed crowd in front of him. At this moment, the streets had been congested with people. There were at least 700 to 800 people gathered here, and this made him pleasantly satisfied. First, I'd like to welcome everyone who is here to witness the opening of Longshan Restaurant. As the beautiful Lin Qingying has introduced, our Longshan restaurant has a long history and a range of top-quality seafood. Today marks the beginning of Longshan Restaurant in Rivertown, and this will signify Longshan Restaurant becoming the best, the most luxurious and the most delicious seafood restaurant in Rivertown. Our Longshan Restaurant has always liked to prove it with our strength. In 5 minutes' time, we will be opening officially. Everyone could come in and try our food. I believe that the top-quality seafood in our Longshan restaurant will be far superior to those in the nearby first-grade restaurant. Atlantic bluefin marlin sashimi. We have it. Two-headed abalone. We have it. Top-quality caviar. We have it. Australian lobsters and king crab. We have them too. We have every kind of top-quality seafood you can imagine. Director Xie spoke confidently. He was in a state of exuberance and had a confident disposition. Following which, the doors to Longshan Restaurant were opened as he waved his hand. A huge fish was placed right at the main door. This is a little benefit to commemorate the opening of our restaurant, large-sized grouper. It weighs over 300 caddies and the market price of it is more than $100 per caddy. As long as you eat in our restaurant today, we will be giving you a serving for free. Wow, what a big fish. Grouper. The price of grouper isn't cheap. It's over $100 per caddy. This grouper is really huge. Doesn't this mean that this alone is worth $30,000 to $40,000? Longshan Restaurant is really generous to give it out for free. Rich. This Longshan Restaurant is simply rich. Disregarding the publicity over the last few days, one could easily tell its strength by its ability to invite Lin Qingying over. Moreover, the range of top-quality seafood is really wide here. Some people looked at that huge grouper in awe. How extravagant. Awesome. The lips of Director Xie curved into a smile and he was very satisfied with the reactions of the crowd. He smiled faintly at the people below the platform who were busy taking photos with their mobile phones. However, there was a batch of people who were surprisingly not shocked. On the contrary, they were commenting softly, "It's just a grouper. This is a far cry from first-grade restaurant." Yeah. Is this all they got? Why does it feel that they are miles behind first-grade restaurant? Yet they dare to claim to be far ahead of first-grade restaurant. This group of people was puzzled while looking at Director Xie acting cocky on the platform. "Boss, is everything going at 50% of its original price?" A voice of a middle-aged man sounded suddenly. The crowd looked towards Director Xie and was waiting for his reply. "Everything in our restaurant is going at 50% of the original price. This includes the drinks." Director Xie smiled. However, he quickly added, "Naturally, some stuff couldn't possibly be going at 50%. For example, the two-headed abalone." We have spent a lot of effort to get them from Australia and therefore these will be sold at the original price of $450,000. Besides that, Atlantic bluefin marlin and caviar will also not be at 50%. I believe everyone knows the prices of these. However, Director Xia's face was still brimming with confidence. Our Australian lobsters and king crab will be going at 50%. Just think about being able to have these for slightly over $1,000 when one typically costs $2,000 to $3,000. Isn't this great? Our Longshan restaurant is really extravagant and generous. The price of a meal would be just $5,000 if it costs $10,000 initially. This is a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. Moreover, our promotional activities will only be for today and over the next few days. Today we have the highest discount of 50%. The manager added from the side. That's a really good deal. It's a perfect deal. Even Australian lobsters and king crab are going for half price. This is simply too cheap. Longshan restaurant is taking a loss with each sale. Awesome, awesome. The crowd couldn't contain their surprise as they exclaimed. Director Xia had also invited some members of the media to record this event. They were taking photos constantly to prepare for future publications. They had already thought of the headlines. For example, extravagant Longshan restaurant. Everything at just 50% on the opening day. Top quality seafood waiting for you to enjoy. The most extravagant restaurant. The most luxurious restaurant. The most delicious restaurant. Top quality restaurant awaits your arrival. However, there was a group of people looking at Director Xia and the manager with a weird expression. A middle-aged man couldn't contain himself and remarked loudly, "Please pardon me for my honest words. If this is all you have, I'm afraid Longshan restaurant has a long way to go to overtake first-grade restaurant." Yeah. To exclude Atlantic bluefin marlin, two-headed abalone and other top-tier ingredients from discounts, you guys are miles behind first-grade restaurant. Yeah. First-grade restaurant is also having a promotional event today and all the ingredients in the restaurant are going at half price. Even a one-headed abalone is at half price. Think about it. A $2 million one-headed abalone going at half price. I thought Longshan restaurant would be generous. What a huge discrepancy from expectation. When the middle-aged man spoke, those customers that were waiting for first-grade restaurant's opening couldn't hold back anymore and seconded. After 5 to 6 people had spoken, the crowd was stunned. Director Xia was also taken aback and looked sternly at those people. You guys are probably hired by first-grade restaurant to cause trouble here. With first-grade restaurant's capabilities, there's no way it has the strength to compete with Longshan restaurant. We are at least 2 tiers ahead. Director Xia's words angered those people. We were hired. They naturally wouldn't be happy about being accused of being something that they weren't. We are hired? What a joke. We are just regular customers and would go to wherever has the most delicious food and widest range of top-quality ingredients. We are just speaking the truth. That's right. I really wonder where you find the courage to say that you guys are 2 tiers above first-grade restaurant. You guys should take a look at others before saying that. Ignorance. It's you guys who are inferior by several tiers as compared to first-grade restaurant and have to rely on a large amount of publicity to gain reputation. You guys should have checked out the difference between Longshan restaurant and first-grade restaurant. The customers below the platform grumbled angrily. Since they were accused of being hired, they wouldn't have to be courteous with Longshan restaurant. Who would have expected that first-grade restaurant would send these troublemakers? What a despicable group of people. Security. Throw these people out. A young man from below the stage was outraged upon seeing the few middle-aged men shouting. Interesting. Interesting. We are just speaking the truth. How do you even dare to be so presumptuous in claiming first-grade restaurant is inferior to you when you haven't even recognized the true strength of first-grade restaurant? I'm just going to say this, and it isn't because I'm biased towards first-grade restaurant. In my opinion, Longshan restaurant is just thrash as compared to first-grade restaurant. You guys are just thrash. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.